just opened my eyes, and I heard a woman's panting coming from the side. That voice was faint and ragged, carrying a tremble. I turned my head and used the faint light outside the window to see her face clearly. Even in the dark, it was piercingly beautiful. The bruises on her collarbone were shocking to behold. What on earth is going on here? Belt whipping, wine bottles shattering, a woman's crying. Those scars were beaten by me. I got reincarnated into the body of a man the same age. He was an alcoholic, a domestic abuser, and a total slacker. I Chen Zuisheng was originally a 100 billion business legend. Opened my eyes and became the male master of this broke home, a deadbeat gambler who beats his wife. You're awake. Is it that you can't sleep? I'll go pour a cup of tea for you. No need, you sleep. My voice was as gentle as possible, yet she was like a spooked rabbit, only seeing her bare feet stepping on the cold concrete floor. When she walked to the doorway, subconsciously, the one she turned back to look at wasn't me. It was her daughter Shu Meng in the corner. That single glance at her daughter, the emotions in her eyes, made a businessman like me used to deceit and intrigue feel like my heart was being ruthlessly squeezed by someone. In my past life, I handled tens of billions in business deals, met political figures from all over the world, and slept with countless women throwing themselves at me. I thought I had seen it all, but I've never seen a woman like this beaten so badly. Yet the first thing upon waking up was being cautious, scared of waking the man who beats her. The second thing was checking if her daughter was sleeping well. I sat up and rubbed my temples, memories still constantly flooding in. He loved gambling, and whenever he lost, he beat his wife. You shut the hell up. You bitch! Ruining my good plans. During the worst beating, Zumeng laid in bed for 3 days, yet still had to crawl up to cook for him. He was a slacker, and the household completely relied on Shumeng setting up a fruit stall in the farmer's market, earning 2,000 or 3,000 a month, which was taken by him to gamble. And when he lost, he'd come back to keep biting at her, not even caring about his daughter. When Qianqian had a 39-degree fever, he picked up the phone at the poker table and replied, "Gambling here. Tell me when she's dead." Finally, yesterday, bro lost again. It's fine. How much is Shu Mendi worth to you? Say how much can Shu Meng even be worth? Haha, why wouldn't she be worth something? She's pretty. If you don't believe it, come see tomorrow, I'll let you take a look. And today, someone is actually coming to inspect the goods. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. Jumeng brought over a teacup, just as Qianqian whined uneasily in her dream. I lifted the mosquito net and took the teacup. Come inside. It's bad if mosquitoes fly in and bite the kid. Jumeng raised her head abruptly to look at me, completely unable to believe that this man who did nothing but beat and scold would actually say something like this. She got into bed, coaxed Qianqian to sleep, and laid down with her back to me, her body slightly tensed. Only after a long while did she ask in a hushed, anxious voice, "Can't sleep?" I let out a seeming to get the signal. Her fingers trembled as she unbuttoned her pajamas. "The bed is a bit small. Keep your voice down." In her voice was a resigned, numb acceptance. My head buzzed with a loud bang, instantly understanding. The original host actually made his wife right beside their daughter. He used this kind of method to soothe his potentially exploding rage. Intense disgust and rage surged to my brain, followed by an even more surging, sharper heartache. I grabbed her hand that was unbuttoning. "Shu Meng." I looked into her eyes, for the first time calling her name seriously. "Listen up, you don't need to do this anymore." Her whole body shuddered violently, her eyes opening wide, filled with sheer shock, confusion, and a faint trace of hope she didn't dare express. "Go to sleep. I'll lead you and Qianqian into living a decent life." The moment the words left my mouth, the plan in my mind was already crystal clear. I woke up just as day broke. It wasn't habit, it was the urge in my chest to change things immediately, burning so hot I couldn't sleep. Ju Meng was using the gentlest movements to carry Qianqian out of bed. Seeing me open my eyes, she was startled. Sorry. It's fine, I woke up on my own." I sat up. "Today, I'll send Qianqian to school, and then go to the stall with you." Business hasn't been good at the stall lately. I knew she thought I was going to take money again. Fear had already become her instinct. But this time I didn't explain. I got up and walked toward the kitchen. There were only a few eggs in the fridge, a bowl of cold rice empty enough to make one's heart ache. When 2 plates of golden, fragrant fried rice were served on the table, Zhu Ming and Qianqian stood by the side, as if witnessing an incomprehensible miracle. Qianqian raised her tiny face. "Mom, Dad knows how to cook." Zhu Ming didn't answer, just looking at me, her eyes complex. The farmer's market was noisy and real. I stood in front of Shu Meng's fruit stall, my eyebrows slightly knitted. Too crude. Only one type of apple stacked in a complete mess, with crooked handwriting on a piece of cardboard saying $3.80 per caddy. The veggie lady next door yelled at the top of her lungs, "Oh my, Zuisheng came to help today." The sun must have risen from the west. I didn't even spare her a glance, my brain rapidly spinning. Single product category, zero competitiveness. Rigid pricing, razor-thin profit margins. Sparse foot traffic, completely lacking attraction. Jumeng had to go pay the management fee, looking at me uneasily before leaving, whispering the apples were bought at $3. Got it, go ahead. She walked away, turning her head back every 3 steps. I squatted down and picked up one of those thin red plastic bags, weighed it in my hand, and looked around at the crowd rushing past, completely turning a blind eye to the small stall. A strategy to instantly ignite demand clearly surfaced in my mind. I tore off a piece of cardboard from the battery box, picked up a marker off the ground, and wrote 2 big lines. Then, without hesitation, I ripped down the old $3.80 sign, setting the new sign in the most eye-catching spot. The lady next door stuck her head out to look and straight up burst out laughing. $20 a bag. Pack as much as you want, Chen Zui Sheng. Your brain really got soaked through by alcohol. You're gonna lose so hard you won't even have pants left. I slowly stood up, looking at her with a smile. Auntie, when doing the math, you can't just count the weight. What I want isn't how much profit this one bag of apples can make. It's clearing inventory and recovering capital in the shortest time possible, completely reviving this deadbeat stall. The new sign quickly took effect. A middle-aged guy leaned over boss. For a real $20 a bag, pack as much as I want. They won't be sour, right? I casually picked up an apple, peeled it neatly, and handed it over. Give it a try. You decide if it's sweet or not. He tasted it and without a second word, snatched the bag and started packing, wishing he could burst the bag open. I smiled like a big shot. As long as you can carry it away, the apples are yours. This single sentence was like opening a floodgate. The crowd swarmed over with a loud rush. $20 wasn't much, but the 5 words, pack as much as you want, instantly ignited the most primitive impulse in human nature. The smile on the lady next door froze on her face, her mouth agape, watching the crowd frantically grabbing and the apples rapidly dwindling. Not even realizing the scale weight in her hand dropped. After paying the fee, Shumeng walked back with a heavy heart. From far away, she saw her own stall swallowed up by a crowd of people. Scared so badly her face turned pale, thinking I had caused some trouble again. She squeezed inside frantically, but the scene before her left her dazed. She watched me standing behind the stall, not meekly groveling, nor losing my temper in a rage, just standing there calmly and steadily, collecting money and handing out bags, while the people around were going crazy, grabbing his apples. Those apples that previously couldn't even sell many in a single day were disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. When she saw the sign saying $20 a backpack as you like, her face turned pale. Are you crazy, $20 for a random pack? We're gonna lose so hard. Relax, these plastic bags can hold 5 caddies at most. I pointed at them. We're making a guaranteed profit. Look at them. They feel like they're taking advantage of us. Rushing to hand over their money? She froze and looked at the people waiting in line. How much did you sell? Almost 500. 500. Her eyes widened as she stared at me, like she was looking at a complete stranger. The apples were about to hit rock bottom, and there was still a long line waiting behind. I asked her if we should restock. The people in line immediately started clamoring, "Boss, hurry up and restock." Jumen quickly made a call, and according to my instructions, straight up ordered a whole truckload. The supplier boldly drove over, and seeing this scene, gasped in pure shock. It was almost time to pick up Changqian. More than half of a truckload of apples was sold. Really not bad? Old Lee rubbed his fingers doing the math, shocked to the point of saying, "My goodness, you must have sold over 1,000 caddies today." Zhumen couldn't believe it. How much total revenue? Roughly 4,300. I chimed in, "This small change isn't even worth mentioning, but it's the very first step for this family to stand back up." Zhu Ming was in a daze. She previously had a hard time earning this amount in a whole month. After clearing up the stall, I dragged Xu Meng to go buy groceries. Fish meat and ribs cost almost 300. Zhu Ming's lips twitched, but she didn't speak. I knew her heart ached over the money, but today we had to celebrate. When we picked up Changqian, the little girl cheered with joy, seeing my hands filled with groceries. "Daddy, are we gonna have a feast?" "Yup, sweet and sour fish, braised ribs." I bent down and rubbed her little face. "Yay, I love Daddy the most." She bounced and jumped around me, while Shumeng looked at us, the gaze in her eyes softening up. Once upon a time, this home had nothing but silence and fear. Now it finally had a bit of warmth. The 3 of us walked home chatting and laughing, Qian chattering away, a soft smile gracing Shumeng's face. This picture was everything I wanted after reincarnating. When passing by the corner grocery shop, Qian suddenly tugged at the corner of my shirt, her eyes sparkling as she pointed at a glass tank inside the shop. "Daddy, look! The little goldfish is so red and pretty." That was just a common goldfish worth a few bucks, but in Changqian's eyes, it was a precious treasure. "All right, Daddy will buy it for you." Zumeng turned back. "I'll go back and wash the veggies first. You two come back quickly." She carried the groceries, her steps, briskly heading toward that rundown tenement building dozens of meters away. I held Changqian, picking and choosing in front of the grocery shop. Just as I was paying, out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of several figures, wandering over to my front door, blocking Shumeng, who was using her key to open the door. My heart sank. "Sister-in-law, we've been waiting for you for a long time." Shumeng was clearly startled, taking a step back and looking at them guardedly. "What do you want?" Yellow hair leaned in with a smirk. "Just coming to remind you, sister-in-law, your man, Chen Zuisheng, Had bad luck at the poker table last night and put you up as a stake so the brothers can have some fun. Shumeng's body swayed, the groceries in her hand dropping to the ground, her face instantly turning deathly pale, her entire person looking as if all her strength had been drained away. I dashed over at a fast pace. Zhuming had already turned around, her back to that group of hoodlums, facing the direction I was walking toward, all color completely drained from her face, with only tears silently and wildly pouring out. Only tear tracks silently gushing out uncontrollably. She was looking at me coming over with our daughter in my arms and holding a goldfish bowl like a good father, her lips trembling, as if she wanted to say something. And then I heard it. Chen Zuisheng, you put on this whole show for a night and a day, just to make me jump into this fiery pit myself. She abruptly bent down, picked up the plastic bag on the ground, and used all her strength to hurl it ruthlessly at me. I hate you, I want a divorce. The groceries smashed it against me, scattering all over the ground. Qianqian was terrified, bursting into tears with a loud wail. Mom, don't hit Daddy. Before I could even open my mouth, Zhumeng turned around and rushed into the house. But she didn't manage to get inside. Triangle Eyes grabbed her broken wrist in one go. Hey, sister-in-law, don't be in such a hurry to leave. His hand slid up, grinning as he laughed. Your man signed in black and white? Tonight you gotta come with us. I saw Shumeng's entire body freeze there, the fear on her face even deeper than before. In that single instant, something inside my heart burst. Let go of her. When my voice went cold. That was something forged through a decade of floating in the business ocean, something these hoodlums had never seen before. Slappy slap landed right on Triangle Eye's face, making him stumble back several steps, blood spitting out from the corner of his mouth. He covered his face and froze. Everyone froze. Kill him for me. Once he snapped back, he pounced like crazy. Fists all swung over. I sidestepped to dodge and landed a kick right in his stomach. He let out a miserable scream, flying back through the air, curled up on the ground, dry heaving. The remaining three rushed up swearing and cursing. My movements were swift, throwing palms, knee strikes, all using the combat arts learned in my past life, targeting their weak spots. In less than a minute, all four men were lying flat on the ground. I heard Qianqian behind me, holding up her little fist, shouting, Daddy, keep it up, beat the bad. Guys. Shumeng didn't make a sound. I walked up in front of Triangle Eyes, stoutly stepping on his chest with one foot, looking down at him. Listen up. I borrowed to gamble, but the previous debt is wiped clean. If you dare come again, I'll beat you up every time I see you got it. He was still talking tough. You owe money and won't pay up. We're calling the cops. Calling the cops? I let out a laugh. Gathering to gamble with. Massive gambling funds. What kind of crime is that? Do you want me to tell you? I have evidence right in my phone. Want me to help you call them? Their faces instantly turned pale. Sorry. Brother Chen, we were wrong. We'll get lost right now. Wait. I called them back, glancing back at Shumeng. She was still trembling. Apologize to my wife. Those guys were frustrated to death, but still lowered their heads. Sorry, sister-in-law. Get lost. I kicked Triangle Eyes aside, and they scrambled and crawled away. The world fell quiet. I turned around to look at Shumeng, the tear tracks on her face not yet dry, her body still trembling. The gaze she used to look at me held fear, suspicion, and deep heartache. My heart hurt as if poked by needles. I walked up in front of her, looking into her eyes, stating word by word with great weight. Shumeng, that previous Chen Zuisheng, was a scumbag. The things he did, dying 10,000 times wouldn't even be enough. I don't ask you to forgive me immediately. I only ask you to give me one more chance. I swear on my life, from here on out. If I, Chen Zuisheng, ever let you and Qianqian suffer even a bit of grievance again, may I die a horrible death. Zhumeng stared at me, large teardrops falling non-stop, a gentle smile curling on her lips as she sobbed. Her lips moved a few times, and finally with red eyes she yelled out a line, Chen Zuisheng, you are too much of a bastard. I will never trust you again. After saying that, she pulled Qianqian into the house, closing the door with the loud bang. She didn't bring up divorce again. That was enough. I opened the door and entered the kitchen. Soon the fragrant aroma of sweet and sour fish and braised ribs floated out, filling up the house. I brought the food to the bedroom door, knocking gently on the door. Food's ready. If you're angry, don't starve the kid. I'll sleep in the living room. Putting down the tray, I turned around and left. From inside the door came Qianqian's tiny voice. Mom, smells so good. After a moment, I heard faint sounds of utensils clinking. Lying on the hard sofa, I stared at the ceiling. There was still a long road ahead, but the direction had never been this clear. Protect them, and make this family truly get better. Night fell. The bedroom door opened slightly with a gentle crack. I closed my eyes, pretending to be asleep. A few seconds later, the door gently clicked shut again, but this time it wasn't locked. The corners of my mouth curled up slightly. Over the next few days, I accompanied Shumeng every single day to set up the stall. $20 a bag, pack as you like. Became an iconic sight in the farmer's market. Apples reliably sold over 1,000 caddies every day. In less than a week, Zhumeng had a whole extra 10,000 RMB in her cart. At night, she often suffered from insomnia. Over the next few days, sales started to decline. So I pulled another new trick, restocking some cherries and blueberries. Frowning, she said, tried that before. Couldn't sell them at all. This time is different. I split the stall into 2 tiers. Low tier at 15 per caddy, including apples and peaches, high tier at 25 per caddy, with cherries and blueberries to pick freely. All fruit washed, sliced, and boxed up, plus 1 RMB for unlimited yogurt, and another 1 RMB to get a free caddy of apples. The stall was squeaky clean and fresh, looking extra eye-catching in the messy farmer's market. That day's revenue broke through 3,000. What made me even more satisfied was that there were even more people buying the high-tier fruit than the low-tier. When packing up the stall, she couldn't help asking me why. I looked at her and smiled. Because the expensive ones make them feel like they're getting a bigger bargain. For just 10 bucks more, they can grab high-tier stuff as they please. Who wouldn't be tempted? Doing business is all about playing with human psychology. She muttered softly, only you know how to talk so slick. Though complaining with her words, the corners of her mouth couldn't help turning up. This week, we made another 10,000 plus. The way she looked at me began to gradually regain its spark. On this day, picking up Changqian to head home, we saw a man in a sharp suit standing at the doorway. Xu Meng's older brother. Xu Hai, brother. Xu Meng ran over in pleasant surprise. Xu Hai gave her a simple glance, his gaze sweeping over me like a knife. Little Chen, come buy a pack of cigarettes with me. I knew he had something to say. Walking to the parking lot, he pointed at a BMW. This car cost over 200,000. What do you think? Not bad. He pulled out a bank card, slapping it into my hand, 200,000 inside. The car is yours too. Tomorrow divorce Xiaomeng. The kid goes to her. The car and money go to you. Completely settled from now on. Hearing Xu Hai's words, I shook my head. Brother, I'm different now. Old habits die hard. Xu Hai's face turned icy cold. Xiaomeng was the apple of our eye at home. What kind of life did she live following you? Drinking, gambling? Are you even worthy of her? If you think the money is too little, name a price. Rage surged up with a burst. I knew he was cursing the original host, but these words still stung deeply. Give me a few more months. You're not even as good as dirt. He interrupted me. A bumpkin from the countryside. Do you really think going to college makes you a city person? If Xiaomeng hadn't been blind back then, what kind of garbage would you even be? Aren't people like you just trying to climb up and scrape money? Marrying a pretty wife gives you bragging rights, huh? Are you worthy? I clenched my fists, then slowly loosened them. I came from a farmer background, making your family lose face. I looked into his eyes, word by word, but don't throw money at me. It won't break me. In 3 months, I can make 1 million. Let me tell you then, come talk to me again. Xu Hai froze for a second, then burst out laughing as if hearing the world's biggest joke. I didn't pay him any more mind, turning around to walk back. After getting home, Xu Meng came up to me, worry in her eyes. Are you all right? I'm fine. Big brother was encouraging me. I lied with a smile. She didn't believe it, but didn't ask further. Xu Hai stayed behind for dinner. At the dinner table, he scanned the old furniture in the room, frowning, still keeping this junk. Aren't you afraid of people laughing? Just as I was about to open my mouth, Xu Meng pulled me gently under the table. She said softly to her older brother, Zuisheng has really changed lately. He came up with so many ideas for me and made some money. Xu Hai gave a cold snort and didn't respond. Right at that moment, his phone rang. He picked it up, his expression instantly changing drastically. What, President Liu isn't satisfied with our marketing plan? Didn't we agree to finalize the draft today? The voice on the other end was super anxious. Standing next to him, I could even faintly hear President Liu looking at the plan and saying it was too cliche. What exclusive Life Collector's Edition work? He said clients don't buy this crap nowadays. With 3 hours left, he wants to talk to you in person. If you can't revise it, all planning fees for this project will be docked, and your position is on the line too. Xu Hai hurriedly pulled out his laptop, starting to humbly communicate with the client. The other party demanded highlighting high-end positioning, without seeming condescending, having cultural depth, yet being youthful. I listened to a few lines. Glancing at his proposal, the logic was completely wrong. High-end real estate isn't selling houses. It's selling social circles resources. And the future. I didn't say a word, turning around to go back to the kitchen. By the time I brought out more dishes, Xu Hai was gone, the laptop still open. The proposal stuck halfway through. Big brother went outside to take a call. Xu Meng said anxiously, if this deal falls through, he might not even keep his job. I heard this real estate project is the most important project for their company this year. Changqian suddenly raised her small face. Daddy, are you stronger than uncle? Unless you prove it to me. I smiled, sat down, and moved the mouse, straight up selecting all and deleting Xu Hai's unfinished proposal. Are you crazy? Xu Meng exclaimed. Didn't you save it? Saving it is useless too. His approach was wrong. I didn't explain, my fingers landing on the keyboard. Very quickly, I got fully immersed in it. A new proposal took shape under my hands. Social circle operation logic, resource integration ideas, identity verification systems built up line by line. When Xu Hai came back, seeing me sitting at his laptop, his whole person exploded in an instant. Who gave you permission to touch my computer? He wanted to help. Xu Meng hastily explained. What the hell does he know about real estate marketing, Sut? Juhai rushed over, just about to blow up, yet froze abruptly. On the screen was a neat and comprehensive marketing proposal. But in the next second, his eyes turned red. Where's my original proposal? Deleted. His whole body was shaking violently. Do you have any idea how many all-nighters I pulled for that? But right at that moment, the phone rang. Time to submit the draft. Looking at the nearly finished new proposal on the screen, his facial expression kept shifting. And finally gritting his teeth, he clicked send. Then he glared at me ruthlessly. If this deal tanks, I'm not done with you. The results weren't out yet, so I picked up the water cup and took a sip. In less than 10 minutes, his phone rang again. He picked up and listened to a few lines, the corner of his mouth twitching. After hanging up the phone, he gave me a glance with a complex look on his face, grabbed his laptop, and walked straight out. I'm making a trip to the company. I'll settle the score with you when I get back. I smiled faint, knowing full well what he was about to face. The stuff in that proposal was simply not something a planner at his level could explain clearly. Sure enough, not long after, my phone rang. It was Shu Hai on the other end of the line, his voice sounding somewhat embarrassed. Chen Zuisheng, can you come over to my company right now? President Liu insists on seeing the actual planner himself. Send me the address. I'll drive over to pick you up. On the way to the company, Shu Hai drove the car super fast. The atmosphere inside the car dead silent. He didn't speak, and I didn't open my mouth either. While waiting for a red light, with a stiff face, he finally squeezed out a sentence. When you see President Liu later, keep your mouth shut. I'll handle it. I glanced at him sideways. Gonna bluff your way through, and then get exposed on the spot? His face turned red, and he shut his mouth. Entering the reception room, a well-dressed middle-aged man stood up, pointing at the projection and asking me, Mr. Chen, the concept of a social circle aggregation arena is pretty good. How exactly will it be implemented? I walked in front of the projection, having the assistant turn to the operations page. What I designed is a set of identity verification systems. First, homeowners must pass the review of the owner's committee. It's not enough to just be rich. They must have valuable resources for the circle, connection skills, or influence. Second, I suggest reserving 30% of the properties as floating lounges, inviting top entrepreneurs, artists, and scholars to stay short-term, giving the community its own halo effect. Third, holding monthly circle dialogues, inviting only top figures in the industry, where non-homeowners can't even get a ticket. President Liu's eyes lit up. Turning houses from products into membership qualifications, he pressed further on a few more details, and I answered with fluent ease. Several senior planners nearby kept nodding along. Good. President Liu stood up, gazing at me with burning eyes. The marketing director position is vacant. 500,000 annual salary. Are you in or not? 500,000. I felt Shu Hai's breathing freeze. I shook my head with a smile. I have to help my wife manage the stall. Not considering taking a job for now? President Liu froze for a second. I continued. However, I don't know if I should say something or not. Please go ahead. Your property's pricing is way too conservative. The air suddenly went tense. Zhu Hai hurriedly tugged at my sleeve. President Liu narrowed his eyes. Mr. Chen, what do you mean? With the current market conditions, our pricing is already the highest in the region. If I didn't guess wrong, the opening price you prepared is 85,000 per square meter. Right. Pausing for a moment, I suggest raising it to above 120,000. A chorus of low gasps echoed inside the conference room, some people already starting to shake their heads. President Liu said with a deep voice, Mr. Chen, you might not fully understand the market. In this region, anything over 90,000 is hard to sell. It's like this right now. I walked over to the window, pointing at that open plot of land on the east side of the development. First, the minutes from last week's Development and Reform Commission meeting mentioned densifying the Eastern Newtown Transit Network. Second, the new mayor's speech at last month's Construction System Symposium emphasized shortening the commute time between the new development zone and the main city. Third, the Planning Bureau's website recently updated the land use zoning map for the eastern sector, and that plot of land on the east side of your project changed from reserved land to transit facility land. The conference room fell completely silent. Everyone stared at me. Chain these pieces of information together, plus factor in the new mayor's track record. When he previously served in the Nanchang New District, his very first major move was pushing forward the construction of subway line extensions. My call is that within 6 months, the subway extension plan will be announced, and the station will most likely be right on the east side of your project. President Liu stood up abruptly. How confident are you? 70%, I said, calmly, but even if it's only 50%, it's worth the gamble. Because once the news breaks, housing prices will instantly surge by over 30%. Raising your price to 120,000 right now looks expensive, but compared to its actual value 6 months from now, it's still a bargain low. I looked at President Liu. More importantly, once the subway news breaks, a huge wave of entry-level housing nearby will hit the market. If you still hold on to that 85,000 price point, you will completely lose your positional advantage as an elite high-end development. Rich folks won't want to be neighbors with commuters squeezing onto the subway. Dead silence washed over the reception room. President Liu stared at me for a full minute, then dialed a number, Secretary Wang, contact Director Li at the Planning Bureau. Discreetly feel out the subway plans for the Eastern Newtown. Waiting for 10 minutes. Felt as long as 10 years. The phone rang. President Liu picked up, his face sinking deeper and deeper as he listened, and in the end, he only said one line, confirmed good. Got it. He hung up the phone and looked at me. Come to my company as VP of Marketing. Annual salary of 1 million RMB. Are you in or not? 1 million RMB annual salary. I saw Shuhai's face turn bright red, his whole body completely frozen right there. I still shook my head, not interested in working a job. I want to spend more time with my family. President Liu looked at me for a long time and let out a bitter smile. To each their own, but I still want to hire you as a consultant for this project. Name your price. I looked over at Shuhai. Actually, Planner Su's fundamentals are solid, and he's already fully grasped the concepts in this proposal. President Liu might as well liaise directly with him. Shuhai froze on the spot, looking at me, his eyes filled with complete disbelief. President Liu thought for a moment, finally nodding, all right, then I'll leave this project in the hands of you two. Walking out of the company, Shuhai still felt like he was in a dream. He suddenly asked, you didn't even want 1 million RMB annual salary. Was that subway news really analyzed by you all on your own? The news was all out there. I said, and the fruit stall at home can't run without someone there. He stayed quiet for a few seconds, his voice trembling slightly. Do you even know what 1 million means? I ground for 8 years just to reach half that number. Big brother, once this deal goes through, you'll be the MVP in the company. I patted him. Your path ahead will be much wider. I got in the car and drove off. In the rearview mirror, he stood in place, watching my departing figure without moving for a long time. At dinner, Shuhai came over again. I took the initiative to raise my glass, substituting tea for wine. Big brother. For all the jerk moves I pulled in the past, I solemnly apologize. Zhu Meng froze, her chopsticks hovering in midair. I knew what she was thinking. The old Chen Zuisheng was nothing but a complete scumbag. When had he ever apologized to anyone? Zhuhai turned his face away with a bit of awkwardness. Zhuhai averted his gaze, feeling somewhat uncomfortable. Zhu Meng looked at him, and then looked at me, suddenly opening her mouth. Brother, did you say something again? I smiled. Big brother was just reminding me to be motivated. Zhu Meng put down her chopsticks, looking seriously at Shuhai. Brother, I picked the person, I walked the path. No matter how bitter the fruit is, I'll swallow it myself. If you guys are really doing this for my good, then stop saying those words that make things hard for me. Under the lights, there was a stubbornness in her eyes that refused to look back once determined. Zhuhai raised his glass. Drinking it all in one gulp, he sighed and didn't speak anymore, hurriedly finishing his meal before leaving. After seeing him off, I turned around. Zhu Meng was looking at me. You're extra different today. Different where? Can't really say. She tilted her head. Just feel like a really long nightmare has truly woken up. It got late into the night. I was making up the sofa in the living room as usual, when Zhu Meng came out of the bedroom holding a blanket. Stopping at the doorway, she turned back to look at me. Addicted to sleepings on the sofa, she pursed her lips into a smile, turning around to enter the room. The door wasn't closed. Early next morning, Zhu Ming took Chen Qian to check out a new kindergarten, while I was at home balancing the books, planning the next step. Near noon, the phone suddenly rang. Answering it, it was Zhu Meng's crying voice, the background noisy. Zuisheng, hurry over to the City People's Hospital. Qian Qian suddenly couldn't catch her breath. She's in the ER right now. My brain buzzed with a loud bang. I dropped everything and dashed out the door. At the hospital, the Shu family had already arrived. The father-in-law Shu Zhengqi, as soon as he saw me, walked over in a furious rage. Chen Zuisheng, look at how badly you've delayed the kid. The doctor said this illness should have been caught long ago. The nurse hastily stopped them. Family members, please keep quiet. The mother-in-law, Gu Manru, walked over with red eyes, her voice trembling. The doctor said it's idiopathic pulmonary arterial hypertension, a rare disease. The current medication is only for temporary maintenance. It requires a special targeted drug. The imported ones cost over 30,000 a month and need to be taken long-term. My heart felt as if ruthlessly squeezed. Pulmonary arterial hypertension. How could this be? Zhu Ming threw herself into my arms, crying so hard, her whole body trembled. The doctor said it might have been there long ago. The symptoms weren't obvious. It's all because I didn't pay attention. When she sometimes said she was tired, I thought she was just tired from playing. What's the point of saying all this now? Zhu Zhengqi's voice went harsh. Treating the disease costs money. Targeted drugs cost 30,000 a month. Can you guys pull that off? Gu Manru looked at her daughter, Zhao Meng. Listen to mom's advice. Get a divorce. After the divorce, Qianqian's medical fees. Our Shu family will take care of it. Xu Ming raised her head abruptly. Mom, what are you saying? You still want to suffer along with him. Take a look at the kid. Gu Manru also cried. This medicine can't stop. If stopped, the condition will drastically deteriorate. Zhu Meng looked at the tightly closed doors of the ER, tears uncontrollably flowing. Yet she wiped her face ruthlessly, standing her body up straight. Mom, I've said it already. I picked the person, I walked the path. No matter how bitter or hard, we'll carry it ourselves. Can you carry it? Xu Zhengqi yelled angrily. Over 30,000 a month. No one knows how long this medicine has to be taken. I shielded Xu Meng behind me, looking straight at Xu Zhengqi. Regarding the money, we'll figure out a way. No need for you to worry. Don't trouble yourself over it. Think of a way. What kind of way can you think of? Zhu Hai couldn't help opening his mouth. President Liu offered you a job with 1 million RMB annual salary over there and you rejected it. I have my ways. I interrupted him. Qiang Qian is our daughter. We will take full responsibility till the end. Xu Zhengqi stared at me for a long time, suddenly letting out a cold sneer. Fine. You've got backbone. Then carry it yourselves. Let's go. The Xu family left. Zhu Meng leaned on my shoulder, softly sobbing, her shoulders trembling helplessly. Don't be scared. I patted her back lightly. I'm here. But the medical fees. She raised her head. Over 30,000 a month? Money is not an issue. I looked out the window. You take good care of Qiang Qian. Leave the rest to me. In front of the payment window, I looked at the bank card in my hand. Inside was what we saved up penny by penny, working early mornings and late nights. But I knew that to cure our daughter, this little bit of money was far from enough. Money? In my past life, I built a billionaire empire from nothing. In this life, for this family, I must earn enough cash right now. In the hospital corridor, I was frantically searching my brain for every memory that could make money fast. Futures were too slow. Antiques were too shady. Gambling on raw jade needed channels. Right then, an extremely secretive memory snippet suddenly became crystal clear. A virtual horse racing section on an underground betting ring had a prize advance exploit. Someone used it to siphon off over 2 million RMB within 3 days. And the glitch wasn't found until the site reconciled its accounts. The logic behind the exploit wasn't complicated, but it required precise operational timing. To stimulate betting, this website, when a virtual race hit its last 30 seconds, its system would, based on real-time odds, display the potential winning prize in advance as the user's available balance. The key point was that within those final 30 seconds, if the user took this virtual balance to place a new bet on another race that was about to end, the system would actually pass the validation as long as it was operated properly. One could use a tiny amount of real principal to leverage dozens of times the virtual funds for chained betting. When all races settle, as long as the final bet won, the profit became real. Simply put, it's like in a casino, where you bet 100 bucks and seeing you're about to win, the dealer pushes 1,000 bucks in chips to you first, saying this might be yours. And you turn around and use those 1,000 chips to bet on another table and win. The casino in the end can only validate it. And I knew the exact operational window for this exploit, the trigger conditions and the methods to bypass risk management. More importantly, at this current point in time, the exploit was still completely unknown. I took a glance at the clock in the hospital corridor, 2:20 p.m. Turning around, I briskly walked out of the inpatient department. Near the hospital, there was an old-school net cafe filled with smoke. I logged into a PC in the furthest corner, navigating to what looked like a normal sports news website, but I knew the hidden entry point. Through a triple jump link, I finally entered a crudely designed page with only text and basic animations. Lucky horse racing. Each virtual race lasted 3 minutes. I took a deep breath. Step 1, register a new account using a randomly generated username. Step 2, deposit funds. The site supported a few covert third-party payment channels. I chose a small amount split deposit method. 5 minutes later, the 5,000 RMB principal hit the account. Account balance 5,000.00. Time 2:40 p.m. The first virtual horse race begins. I placed a 1,000 bet on horse number 3 to win at 2.5 odds. The simulated race reached the final 40 seconds, and horse number 3 pushed from 5th to 2nd place. At this moment, in the bottom right corner of the system interface, my available balance suddenly jumped, changing from 4,000 to 5,500. I took the 1,000 bet and added the potential 1,500 profit in advance. But I didn't move. This was normal display, not the exploit yet. The race ended, and horse number 3 won by a hair's breadth. Real settlement profit, 1,500. Account balance, 6,500. Second round at 2:45. I placed a 2,000 bet on an exacta, guessing the top 2 horses at 3.2 odds. Final 30 seconds. The system displayed the potential profit in advance again. My balance jumped from 4,500 to 11,400. 4,500 plus 2,000 times 3.2. Here comes the critical moment. With 25 seconds left in the race, I rapidly switched to another virtual soccer micro market that was about to end, betting the entire 11,400 balance on a goal in the final 5 minutes at 1.8 odds. The system passed the validation, bet placed successfully. The exploit really existed. It treated pre-calculated profit as actual available funds. My heart rate began to accelerate. The horse race ended. The exacta hit, profit 4,400. The soccer match reached the 89th minute. The virtual player scored a long-range goal, profit 20,520. The account balance instantly became 5,000 minus 3,000 plus 4,400 plus 20,520 equals 26,920. In less than 10 minutes, 5,000 turned into 27,000. But I didn't stop. I knew this exploit could be chained continuously. As long as I timed the 30-second window of each race precisely, I could snowball it, exponentially amplifying the virtual capital. Even if I lost, it was just losing virtual capital. Round 3, round 4. Yes, 4. My hands flew across the keyboard and mouse, my eyes simultaneously tracking 3 matches with different countdowns. Every single step had to be accurate down to the second. At 3:21 p.m., I completed the final round of operations. The final account balance on screen 7,268,007,268,00. Using 5,000 RMB, I leveraged a over 140 times return in just 1 hour. I leaned back against the chair staring at the numbers on screen, my palms soaked in sweat. Clicked on withdrawal. The site prompted that large withdrawals required manual review and would arrive within 2 hours. I cleared all browsing history, shut down the machine, stood up, and left. Stepping out of the net cafe, the sunlight felt a bit blinding. I raised my hand to shield my eyes, taking a deep breath. 720,000 was still stretching it thin for Qian Qian's illness. Curing her completely would require even more cash. But I knew someone would come deliver money to me very soon. Pushing open the ward door, I heard the nurse's cold voice, "Miss Zhu, there's only a 5,000 deposit in the system. You must pay the rest in full today. Otherwise, the test and medication can't proceed." Zhu Ming was on the verge of tears. Impossible. My husband just went to pay 10,000 an hour ago. Seeing me walk in, her voice froze instantly. "Where's the money? Where's that 10,000? I only paid 5,000. I looked into her eyes. "I took the other 5,000 to bet on horse races." Bet on horse races? Zhu Ming's expression shattered in an instant. She stumbled back a step, looking as if all her strength had been drained away. "Chen Zuisheng, that was Qian Qian's life-saving money. You took it to gamble." She lunged forward, her fist pounding against my chest, crying heart-wrenchingly, "Are you even human? What about the oath you swore?" The nurse shook her head and sighed beside us, her eyes filled with absolute disdain. I grabbed her wrist, lowering my voice. "Meng Meng, listen to me. I won with that 5,000. The money is being withdrawn and will hit the account within 2 hours. Qian Qian's medical fees are temporarily taken care of." She stopped and raised her head, looking at me with eyes that had completely lost all hope. "You're starting again. Starting to lie again, aren't you?" Her finger pointed at me, trembling violently. "You clearly know I hate you gambling the most. What about the oath you swore?" I stayed silent. At this moment, anything I said would sound like a lame excuse. "Give me 2 hours. I let go of her, looking at our pale-faced daughter on the hospital bed. 2 hours later, I will come back with the money. Having said that, I turned around and left. Behind me was her suppressed, desperate crying. When I came back after buying hot porridge, Xiumeng was lying by the bedside as if asleep, but her trembling shoulders betrayed her. Qian Qian was awake, tubes attached to her tiny body. Seeing me, she tried hard to squeeze out a weak smile. "Daddy, Qian Qian will be good." I bent over and gently touched her small face. "Daddy will definitely defeat the sickness monster and take you to the funnest amusement park to eat cotton candy even bigger than the clouds." Qian Qian's eyes lit up slightly, saying softly, "I want to be together with Daddy and Mommy forever." Zhu Ming raised her head, a sheet of bloodshot red under her eyes. She looked at her daughter's pleading gaze, then looked at me again, and in the end only let out a deeply exhausted, long sigh. Taking the bowl of porridge, "Go handle your business first." Her voice was raspy. "I've got things covered here." I knew this was the last bit of leeway she was giving me. I checked the time. Wait for me. Walking out of the ward, I didn't look back. Coming out of the hospital, just as I was getting ready to head to the bank, a black Mercedes suddenly cut right in front of me. The car door pulled open, and 2 expressionless men in black suits stepped down. "Mr. Chen Bosku would like you to get in the car for a chat." They moved pretty fast. I nodded, getting into the car. The space inside was spacious. A man in his 40s, wearing an exquisite suit, sat opposite me. His facial features weren't fierce, even somewhat refined. Gu Weidong, in my past life I had dealt with him quite a bit, and even collaborated before. "Chen Zuisheng," he looked up at me, "Slick hands you got there." My lousy system had 7 or 8 programmers watching it, and hadn't had a single hitch in 3 years. The moment you showed up, you poked a massive hole right through it. "Spill it, how did you find it?" I leaned back against the seat, meeting his gaze. Boss Gu running a betting ring and yet scared of people winning money. The system having an exploit is your own problem. I won the money fair and square. What, trying to renege on it? Gu Weidong narrowed his eyes slightly. "Over 700,000. I, Gu Weidong, am not petty enough to not pay up." He let out a slight smile. "You can take the money, but you can't pay 0 price for it." I knew he was testing my background. In my past life, I knew him inside out, but right now I couldn't show all my cards. I let out a smile. "Fine. I won't take your money for free either. How about I give you a piece of intel?" Gu Weidong raised an eyebrow. "Let's hear it." "Regarding your old man, Mr. Gu Changgeng, The thumb ring in Gu Weidong's hand stopped moving. Has he been occasionally feeling chest tightness lately and numbness in his left shoulder and arm? My tone was calm. I suggest doing a coronary CTA immediately, focusing on inspecting the mid-segment of the left anterior descending artery. Routine checkups won't detect non-calcified plaques. Gu Weidong's pupils shrank slightly. He looked at me for a few seconds and immediately dialed a number, Director Wang. Please arrange an emergency heart checkup for my old man. Coronary CTA, focus on the left anterior descending artery right. Now. The inside of the car fell into silence. 40 minutes later, the phone rang. Gu Weidong picked up. Gu Weidong picked up. His expression suddenly changed drastically. After hanging up, the way he looked at me completely shifted. Severe stenosis of the left anterior descending artery, over 85% any later and he would have been gone. Chen Zuisheng, who on earth are you? That's not important. I met his gaze. Unfreeze my money immediately and my safety on your turf. Gu Weidong stared. At me, nobody will touch a hair on your head. However, a guy like you wouldn't risk it just for 700,000 plus. You still have more to say, don't you? Sharp indeed. There is indeed one more piece of intel. I looked into his eyes. Regarding a woman you've been searching for over a decade without finding, and the child by her side whose existence you probably didn't even know about. Gu Weidong sat up straight abruptly, his refined facade completely soaked through. His eyes filled with absolute shock. What did you say? She married a middle school teacher in Suchang, living a quiet life. I lowered my voice. Raising a daughter. Nominal age birthday, June 17th. Gu Weidong's face turned deathly pale, his fingers trembling slightly. That date, that age. He understood. What do you want? He asked in a raspy voice. 5 million and the intel is yours. Ah Qiang, transfer the money right away. Gu Weidong turned around and instructed. 10 minutes later, the phone vibrated, a text notification of bank deposit. I sent the detailed information I edited on my phone over to him. Transaction complete. I pulled open the car door. My daughter is in the hospital. She needs absolute peace and quiet. Don't let any trouble come knocking. Gu Weidong gave a heavy nod. Over at the hospital, I'll arrange the best resources. The car door closed, and the Mercedes drove away. I stood at the hospital entrance. There was already 5.72 million in my card. Qianqian's medical fees were fully covered. I gripped my phone tightly, briskly walking into the hospital building. I rushed into the ward at maximum speed, pushing open the door, but Chumeng wasn't there. My father-in-law, Xu Zhengqi, sat by the bedside, his face dark and stern. Your own daughter is this sick, and you, the dad, are running around everywhere. I ignored him, walking to the bedside to feel Qianqian's forehead, asking in a low voice, where's mom? Said she went out to handle something, and had me watch over. Xu Zhengqi snorted softly. The two of you as a couple, each running faster than the other, not showing up for hours. My heart sank heavily. Zhu Ming would never leave Qianqian behind at a time like this. For hours, I immediately dialed her phone, unanswered. Xu Zhengqi also sensed something wrong. Why isn't Meng Meng picking up? Just then, the cleaning lady's cursing echoed from the corridor. These immoral scumbags, pasting small ads for surrogacy agencies in the restroom again. How dare they try to make this kind of money? Surrogacy, a terrifying thought instantly surged up. Juman couldn't... No, she wouldn't be that foolish. But in the next second, I recalled her red-eyed, stubborn look. She really would. I turned around and dashed out of the ward. Where are you going? The hospital is still rushing for medical fees. Xu Zhengqi yelled from behind. I've paid the medical fees. Keep an eye on Qianqian. I sprinted into the ladies' restroom, ignoring the screams inside, shoving open the stalls one by one. Third stall. Pasted on the wall were crooked phone numbers and high-pay hiring surrogate mothers. 300,000 upfront. I immediately dialed the number. I'm looking for a surrogate mother. I lowered my voice, my tone cold and harsh. I need a child urgently. Money is not an issue. The woman on the other end was suspicious. Sir, you've got the wrong number. Cut the act, I sneered. My wife can't conceive, and I want a boy, preferably with gender selection. After a few seconds of silence, her tone turned to warm. Boss, you sure are well informed. We can do that. Though the price, money is not an issue. I interrupted, but I want to pick the person. No previous surrogates. I want a brand new one. Ideally someone who's never given birth before. Young, healthy, and good genetics. A brand new one? There isn't a ready candidate right now. The other side was put in a tough spot. Are you sure there isn't? I raised my voice. The other side was clearly stunned. How do you know I have channels? I said coldly. Give me the address. I'm heading over right now to check. If I'm satisfied, double the price. Double. Her voice completely changed. Boss, are you for real? I'm in a hurry. I glanced at my watch. I'll be there within 20 minutes. Hold the fresh recruit for me. If a contract's already signed and the process started, then forget this deal. Not signed, it's legit. She just finished her preliminary checkup. Boss, come on over. We'll wait for you. Hanging up the phone, I rushed out of the hospital, hailed a taxi driver. Hurry, go to this place. At the same time, I dialed the police. lowering my voice to report that address, saying someone was suspected of illegal surrogacy operations. 20 minutes later, I stood in a dilapidated urban village, found an old building with a housekeeping service sign, and went straight up to the third floor. The door was opened a crack. A heavily made-up middle-aged woman sized me up. "Are you that boss?" "Where's the person?" I walked straight inside. "In the lounge." The woman followed up with a phony smile. "This woman's conditions are pretty good. 28 years old, gave birth to a girl once, natural delivery, healthy body. Urgently needs money, easy to negotiate on price." Pushing open the door, Meng was sitting on an old sofa, both hands tightly clutching her hem. Seeing me walk in, her eyes widened abruptly, her whole body freezing up. This is her. Expressionless, I sized her up, as if scrutinizing a piece of commodity. "Stand up and turn around." When she stood up, there was even a bit of panic on her face. "Boss, what do you think?" The woman chimed in. "Looks and figure are both pretty good. She even has a bachelor's degree." I walked in front of Meng, looking at her face. "Too skinny. Can she give birth to a son?" "Well, having a boy or a girl isn't something we can guarantee 100%, but we can screen for it." The woman hurriedly explained. "I need to ensure it's a son." I said coldly, "I can add more money, but if it turns out to be a daughter, you guys take full responsibility?" "Boss, this risk is way too big." Big risks mean big profits. I turned around to stare at that woman. "I want this one. Name a price, sign the contract right now, and I'll take her with me right now." "Now." The woman froze. "Boss, this process, I'm expediting it." I pulled a bank card out of my pocket. "Money is not an issue, but I'm taking the person away right now." The middle-aged woman rolled her eyes. "Boss, this isn't according to the rules. If you take the person away, what if? So call someone who can actually make the shots." I stared at her. "Or can you guys not make the shots at all?" The woman's face shifted. "Boss, please wait a moment." She walked out of the room and pulled the door shut. The moment the door closed, Meng immediately lunged over and grabbed my arm. "Are you crazy? Let's go fast. Let's go together." I squeezed her hand tight. "Trust me." Footsteps echoed outside the door, and the door was pushed open. The middle-aged woman returned, followed by two thugs behind her, as well as a middle-aged man wearing a suit and gold-rimmed glasses. "Boss, this is our President Chen." President Chen sized me up. "I heard boss is in a hurry to take someone away." "Yeah, name a price." 800,000 all-inclusive, guaranteed to be a boy." "Fine. Deposit of 500,000. I'll transfer now and take her with me. The remaining balance will be paid after pregnancy is confirmed." President Chen smiled. "Boss, the rules don't work like that. You pay the full amount now and the person we will deliver to your designated location." He pushed up his glasses, a chilling, sinister vibe oozing from his smile. "Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to walk out of here." I narrowed my eyes. "My money isn't that easy to scam." "Then that depends on whether you have the guts to walk out this door." President Chen shot a glance, and the two thugs stepped closer. Right at this moment, siren sounds faintly echoed from downstairs. President Chen's expression changed drastically. "You called the cops?" "Why would I call the cops?" I sneered. "But looks like your business isn't quite clean." The sirens rapidly approached, and commotion broke out downstairs. President Chen swore fiercely, saying he's completely done for, and leave through the back door. The two thugs lunged forward from left and right. I shoved Meng forcefully into the corner, grabbed a chair and smashed it straight at the guy on the left. The wooden chair shattered over his shoulder, making him groan as his movement stalled. But the thug on the right's fist was already whistling through the air, smashing toward my temple. I hastily dodged sideways, the fist grazing my cheekbone, burning with sharp pain. Before I could regain my footing, a cold flash glinted. He actually pulled out a switchblade directly, stabbing straight toward Meng. "Ah!" Meng's scream exploded in my ears. In a flash of lightning, I lunged forward in one step, blocking in front of Meng. A sharp blade plunged into flesh with a muffled thud, searing pain instantly exploding as my left shoulder felt ice cold, which quickly turned it into a scorching burn. The thug didn't expect I would actively charge into the blade, dazed for a single instant. And in that very instant, my right hand grabbed his knife-wielding wrist, and my forehead slammed viciously into his nose bridge. A crack of a broken nose bone accompanied a blood-curdling scream. He let go of the knife handle, stumbling backward. Police freeze. "Get down on the ground, all of you." Right at this moment, the police rushed upstairs, holding my bleeding left shoulder. I blocked in front of Meng, raising my right hand. "Officer, we are the victims." President Chen was pinned to the floor, still trying to struggle, only to be firmly held down by the rushing officers. A young cop saw me covered in blood, and immediately shouted into his walkie-talkie, "Someone's injured here. We need an ambulance." Meng rushed over her hands, trembling as she pressed around my wound, large tears falling continuously, her voice broken. You're bleeding." "So much blood." Leaning against the wall, I squeezed out a smile at her, gently touching her face with my uninjured hand. "It's fine, just a flesh wound. As long as you're safe, that's all that matters." When we walked out of the police station, the sky was pitch black. Meng tightly gripped my arm, her fingertips ice cold, trembling slightly. Walking to a deserted spot, she stopped in her tracks. She looked up at me, her face covered in tear tracks. How did you know I was there? How did you dare to come alone? I reached out and gently wiped away her tears. Because you're my wife, and Qian is our daughter. Even if the sky falls, I'm here. Don't worry, I've already paid Qian's hospitalization fees. Zhu threw herself into my arms, weeping bitterly, as if trying to cry out all her fear and grievances. I tightly held her trembling body, letting her tears soak into my clothes. The night sky had no stars, but the darkest hour had already passed. Back at the hospital, the nurse treated my wound. The stab wound on my left shoulder required over 10 stitches. The doctor said if it were any deeper, it would have damaged the nerves. Once bandaged, I told Xu to head back to the ward first to see our daughter. She hesitated for a moment, but being away from our daughter for so long made her uneasy, so she eventually nodded. I sat on the chair in the treatment room, taking a breath to catch myself. Just as I was about to get up, my phone rang. It was a bank deposit text notification. Gu Weidong had transferred another sum of money, calling it medical financial assistance for Qian. I glanced at the amount. It was more than enough. When I pushed open the ward door, Xu Hai was standing at the end of the corridor making a phone call. Seeing me, his face darkened. He hung up the phone and walked over. Chen Zuisheng. He lowered his voice. Where did that newly topped up 500,000 RMB deposit for the medication come from? Won it from horse racing, I said. He stared at me for a few seconds, letting out a cold sneer. Chen Zuisheng, you've gambled for so many years and never brought a single penny back home. Now that the kid is sick like this, you can suddenly win this much? I didn't reply. I bet you went to borrow it from President Liu, acted all high and mighty, rejecting the high pay back then, only to turn around and humbly beg for money. Let me tell you, don't even think about dragging the Xu family into this 1 million RMB debt. Having said that, he turned around and walked away. I stood right where I was, watching his departing back. Over the next month, Qian remained hospitalized. Idiopathic pulmonary arterial hypertension was extremely rare. Domestically, it could only be maintained using imported targeted drugs. Our child's condition was still deteriorating bit by bit. Xu Meng and I took turns guarding her. She took the day shift, and I took the night shift. When sleepy, we leaned back on the corridor chairs for a bit. When hungry, we ate the cheapest bento boxes from the hospital cafeteria. The Xu family never showed their faces once. I knew Xu Meng felt terrible inside, but she never said a word. Only sometimes when I woke up in the middle of the night, I would see her lying by the bedside, holding Qian's tiny hand lost in thought. 1 month later, the Xu family finally showed up. The doctor was currently examining Qian. After the checkup finished, the doctor told us that the current medication could only delay the progression, not reverse it. Long term, the child's cardiopulmonary burden would only get heavier and heavier. After listening, what Xu Zhengqi asked about was money. That 500,000 RMB is almost used up right. Xu Hai's tone was cold. Have you thought about how to pay back the money? The money wasn't borrowed, Xu Meng said. Not borrowed. Gu Manru interrupted. Did it fall from the sky then? In front of everyone, Xu Zhengqi pointed at my nose and cursed, mouthful of lies. My daughter and granddaughter were ruined by you. Suppressing my anger, I said, keep it down, don't disturb the child. Who are you to lecture my dad? Right at this moment, the ward door was pushed open. The doctor walked in, bringing several experts along. There's news. The doctor looked at us. An expert team from a top overseas cardiopulmonary center will soon be conducting a trial in the country. A cutting-edge interventional combined gene-targeted therapy protocol. By reconstructing the pulmonary artery microcirculation paired with precise targeted regulation, it has a chance to fundamentally reverse the progression. He paused. Qian's various metrics perfectly meet the criteria. Xu Meng fiercely grabbed my hand, her eyes turning red. But the treatment process must start immediately. The initial cost is 1 million RMB. I turned around and walked out of the ward. At the end of the corridor, I dialed Gu Weidong's phone number. Don't worry about the money, he said. Professor Robert is someone I specially invited from Zurich. He looked at your daughter's condition and said it's better than expected. The surgery's outcome will be highly ideal. Thanks. I should be the one thanking you. He paused for a moment. The mother and daughter have both been found. Mr. Chen, I will remember this favor. Hanging up the phone, I returned to the payment window. By the time I got back to the ward entrance, I heard Xu Zhengqi's voice inside. See that? The moment paying is mentioned, he runs off. Meng, as long as you divorce him. The Xu family will pay this money. Xu Meng's voice was very soft, but very steady. Mom, dad, brother. Thank you for your good intentions, but I really don't need it. The day before yesterday, Zhu Sheng topped up another 1 million RMB deposit. The ward was quiet for a few seconds. A nurse pushed the door open to do pre-op prep, casually mentioning, the child's father just topped up another 1 million RMB as a dedicated fund for follow-up treatments and imported targeted drugs. I stood at the door, watching Xu Zhengqi, Gu Manru, and Xu Hai, the three of them frozen in place. The red light outside the operating room was on. Zhu Meng leaned on my shoulder, her body trembling slightly. I held her hand. Professor Robert is an authority in the field of pulmonary arterial hypertension. He has done 27 cases like this, all of them successful. Zhu Hai walked over with a dark face. Chen Zuisheng, just how much money did you borrow from President Liu? I looked up at him. My business is none of your concern. Get 2 million. The Shu family couldn't even cover that by selling our house. He turned to Shu Meng, little sis. Tell the truth. Just as Shu Meng was about to speak, Zhu Zhengqi strode over aggressively, pointing at my nose. You're asking him? All he knows how to do is lie and gamble. He turned to Shu Meng and said, Meng, Dad currently has 1 million RMB in savings on hand. As long as you nod and get a divorce, this money will be transferred to you immediately. But first thing tomorrow morning, I'm going to invest this money into the project spearheaded by Director Zhou for the House for Pension program. Gu Manru explained from the side. The annualized return is at least 30%. This is an internal opportunity within the veteran cadre circle. The contract is signed for 10 years. And after 10 years, not only does the house return intact from the company, but there are also financial returns. Director Zhou said, this is a national pilot project with only a few spots available. We figured making this money grow would eventually be left for you guys anyway. I looked at Shu Zhengqi. Dad, this model you're talking about is mortgaging the property to a third-party company in exchange for a pension, right? Shu Zhengqi froze for a moment, showing disdain on his face. The old leader personally guaranteed it. It's a legit company. We even had a lawyer review the contract. What do you know? This is an emerging scam tactic from the past 2 years. The so-called professional companies are usually shell corporations. The registered capital is just a few tens of thousands. They will indeed pay the pension on time for a few months. By the time you guys realize it, the house and the money will both be gone. Director Zhou is either similarly scammed or I didn't finish my sentence. Bullshit. Shu Zhengqi flew into a rage. Our lifetime of connections and networks? Is it your turn as a gambling addict to point fingers at it? A contract in black and white. Would the government really just ignore it? I think you're just jealous. Shu Meng suddenly stood up, her voice trembling. Take your project and get out. I don't want your money. Whether Qian lives or dies, I'll carry it myself. Shu Zhengqi's face turned ash gray, pointing at his daughter, unable to utter a word for a long while. In the end, he flicked his sleeve hard. Fine. Don't you regret this? Gu Manru let out a sigh with red eyes. Zhu Hai hesitated to speak, and the family turned around and left. Outside the operating room door, it suddenly fell dead silent. Zhu Meng slumped onto the bench, tears silently slipping down. I gently wrapped my arm around her shoulder. 4 hours later, the surgery light turned off, and the attending physician walked out, a smile on his face. The surgery was extremely successful. The child needs to be observed in the ICU for 48 hours, but the prognosis is very optimistic. Zhu Meng's legs went soft, and I caught her just in time. She covered her face, tears gushing through her fingers. But this time they were tears of joy. 2 months later, Qian reached the criteria for discharge. The little girl's complexion had grown much rosier. Although she still had to take medication and do regular checkups, she could already jump and bounce around. To celebrate her new life, we booked a newly opened high-end steakhouse. While she was hospitalized, I had promised my daughter that when she got better, I'd take her to eat the best steak. The steakhouse had an elegant atmosphere, and Qian excitedly swung her tiny feet in her seat. Zhu Meng helped smooth out her napkin, and the dishes were all served. Just as I was about to cut the steak, a well-dressed young man walked past the aisle. He took a casual glance, his eyes landing on Shu Meng, and suddenly stopped in his tracks. Shu Meng, surprise flashed across his face, which then turned into a playful knowing smile. He took a few steps closer, his eyes scanning over me and Qian, lingering especially on Qian for an extra second. Finally, his gaze shifted back to Shu Meng's face. I heard you got married. Is this? Shu Meng's fingers tightened slightly. This guy's name was Zhu Feng, the blind date guy Shu Meng's parents tried so hard to push on her back then. Seeing him, Shu Meng's body visibly froze up. Zhu Feng? Shu Meng's voice sounded a bit unnatural. What a coincidence. Zhu Feng turned toward me, sizing me up and down. That scrutinizing vibe was blatantly clear. He reached out his hand. Mr. Chen, right? Pleasure to meet you. Is this your kid? She's already this big. I stood up and shook his hand. He intentionally exerted extra force in his grip, but I didn't flinch, just staring at him calmly. Since it's such a coincidence, you don't mind if we join you, right? Zhu Feng smoothly seized the opportunity to say, turning around to introduce a woman with exquisite makeup behind him. Huiping, this is my old friend Shu Meng and her husband. Meng, this is my girlfriend, He Huiping. He stressed the words old friend and girlfriend. A bit heavily, He Huiping's gaze rapidly swept over Shu Meng, finally landing on Shu Meng's outfit, a hint of superiority surfacing on her face. She flashed a smile. Shu Meng, right? What a coincidence. Let's sit together then. Under the table, Shu Meng gently grabbed my hand. I held it back in reassurance, flashing a smile at a Huiping. Calling her Shu Meng is way too polite. You look quite a bit more mature than my wife. He Huiping's face froze. Zhu Feng ordered a few pricey dishes, and then looked at me. Mr. Chen, where are you currently working high up? Today's my treat. I just run a small business. I replied calmly. Small business is pretty good too. Lots of freedom. He then turned to the server. Bring us a bottle of Montrachet Dry White. Vintage 2015. Let it breathe first. After smoothly rattling off the wine's name, he looked at Meng. I remember you didn't really drink before, but this place's white wine paired with seafood is unmatched. You can try just a little bit. He hyping immediately chimed in, yeah, Afeng is super picky about food. This wine isn't cheap, right? She seemingly asked Jufeng, but her eyes drifted toward Meng. Jufeng feigned nonchalance. It's alright, as long as it fits today's dishes. The wine was brought out shortly. Following etiquette, the server poured a small amount into Jufeng's glass, asking him to taste. Jufeng swirled it, took a sniff, and took a sip, letting it linger in his mouth for a moment before nodding. Passable. The entire process was done very deliberately by him. Just as the server was about to pour wine for everyone, I raised my hand and gently stopped them. Picking up the glass in front of Meng and said to the server, please swap for another glass. This glass hasn't been chilled long enough. It'll ruin the Montrachet's fruity notes and mineral feel, especially its relatively delicate body. The server was stunned, hurriedly apologizing and switching out the glass. I took the new glass, checked it carefully again before gesturing that it was fine to pour. The composure on Jufeng's face was getting a bit hard to maintain. Meng looked at me in surprise. Picking up the glass to carefully take a small sip, Jufeng cleared his throat. Mr. Chen sure is quite particular about wine glasses, though Montrachet's terroir characteristics are actually more prominent, striking a balance between the elegance of Pouligny and the richness of Chassagne. I smiled faintly. This vintage is decent. But if you really want to pair it with today's seafood, actually a Courtin Charlemagne dry white from the neighboring estate. The 2014 vintage might be more complementary in terms of structure. Jufeng's expression stiffened slightly, and with a dark face, he changed the topic. Meng. I started my own landscaping company these past 2 years, specifically doing sub-projects for major real estate developments. It's a bit tough, but the income is decent. He held up 2 fingers and wiggled them. He hyping immediately took over the conversation. Afeng is way too humble. How is it just 2 million plus, Xinyang Group, right? Several of their high-end residential properties, the landscaping was all done by us. She looked toward Meng, feigning concern. If you guys want to buy a house, look for Afeng. He's close with many developers. He can definitely get you the lowest insider price. I saw Meng's lips tightly pressed. Jufeng looked at her, waving his hand in a pretend generous manner. Hupping, don't talk like that. Meng, it really is time for your old apartment to be replaced. Whenever you need, just say the word. I can get the insider price. Definitely over 100,000 cheaper than market price. Meng's fingers clutched together under the table. I gently covered her hand. No need if we want discounted properties. I have my own channels too. Jufeng looked completely unconvinced. This isn't the time to act proud. I heard you guys are, well, tight on cash. Saving over 100,000 is cold hard cash. Why do it just for face? He hyping backed him up instantly. Exactly, Afeng is super tight with real estate CEOs. It's just a matter of saying a word. How great would it be to use the saved money on nutritional supplements for your kid, where you guys are living now? Sigh. We're truly considering things for your own good. Her gaze swept over Meng's clothes. Meng's face flushed bright red, and just as she wanted to speak, she was gently pressed down by my hand under the table. I picked up my water glass and took a sip, flame sparking up inside me. Today was to celebrate my daughter's new lease on life, not to listen to you two play bad cop, good cop. Just as I was about to dismiss them, Mr. Chen, a voice with a hint of pleasant surprise came from behind us. We looked over, only to see Liu Xinrong walking over quickly from the direction of the private room, a genuine smile on his face. I was a bit surprised. Jufeng had seen photos of him with the boss at the entrance of Xinyang Group. Never expected to actually run into Chairman Liu. Jufeng was like he had springs attached, hopping right up so fast he knocked his chair over. With a loud clatter, his face plastered with a flattering smile. He bent his waist and reached out both hands to greet him. Chairman Liu, what a coincidence meeting you here. I'm Jufeng from Fengjing Landscaping. At the end of last year at your company's appreciation banquet, I even toasted you a drink. Do you still remember me? As he spoke, he smugly glanced over at us. Liu Xinrong's brows furrowed slightly, clearly not remembering this guy at all. But his line of sight quickly passed right over Jufeng and landed on me. Out of courtesy, Liu Xinrong still reached out to shake his hand, his tone flat. Oh, hello? With just that casual handshake, Jufeng acted like he had drunk top-shelf liquor, his cheeks flushing red, and his spine straightening right up. However, Liu Xinrong pulled his hand back almost immediately, turning toward me and striding right past Jufeng, who was frozen on the spot. He reached out his hand to me. Mr. Chen, what a huge coincidence. Ever since we parted last time, I've been wanting to contact you. But I was afraid of disturbing you taking care of your family. Bumping into you today is truly fate. I stood up and shook his hand. President Liu, long time no see. I saw Jufeng's eyes widen next to us, his whole body frozen on the spot as if struck by lightning. The flattering smile on his face hadn't even had time to fade, mixed with shock, making his expression look unimaginably comical. He hyping didn't recognize Liu Xinrong, only seeing her boyfriend being left out in the cold, while a fruit vendor like me was chatting and laughing with this high and mighty guy? She curled her lips, blurting out in a moderately loud voice, "Yo, so now even fruit vendors can chat about real estate? How novel." As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere instantly turned cold. Liu Xinrong's smile vanished, his sharp gaze sweeping over to He Huiping, and then back at me, his eyes carrying an inquiring look. I released my hand, my tone calm. "Oh, they're acquaintances of my wife from before. We just happened to bump into them. They were pretty enthusiastic. Hearing that we're looking to buy a house, they insisted on hooking us up with an insider discount on your properties." Liu Xinrong was a slick veteran. He got it the moment he heard it. A smile surfaced on his face again, but with a bit more diplomacy and a touch of coldness. He looked at me, his voice loud and clear. "Ah yeah, brother. Look at what you're saying." He patted my arm. "With our relationship, if you buy a house from me, why even talk about discounts?" His gaze shifted to the dumbfounded Zhu Feng and He Huiping, his smile unchanged. Yet his tone carried a patronizing casual air. "Brother, sister-in-law, and little precious." He glanced at Tianqian affectionately. "Whichever development or property of mine you take a liking to, just tell me directly." He gave a big wave of his hand, resolute and decisive. "I'll gift you a unit." These words exploded overhead like thunder. Thunder. I saw the color completely drain from Zhu Feng's face, his eyeballs nearly popping out, his mouth hanging open as his body swayed. He Huiping was totally stunned, looking at Liu Xinrong, then looking at me, and then at her boyfriend, who looked utterly terrified out of his mind, her mouth agape, unable to utter a word. When Liu Xinrong brought us into the private room, the three executives inside were visibly taken aback. "Let me introduce you." Liu Xinrong was in high spirits. "Mr. Chen Zuisheng, my benefactor." The three executives stood up and nodded, yet their eyes couldn't hide their confusion. A benefactor this young, and even bringing his wife and daughter, Liu Xinrong, personally poured tea for me. "Brother, thanks to your reminder last time, we raised the price for Quihu Tiandi according to your idea, and profits went up by 30%. The board of directors just decided to go all in on that area for the next 2 years." I set down my teacup, saying calmly, "President Liu, the subway line extension is a set deal, but Ninghai's focus for the next 5 years won't be in the east." "What?" All three chimed in simultaneously. Marketing director, Mr. Wang, frowned. "Mr. Chen, what makes you say that? We've done a detailed survey. That land bank plus the subway boost is absolutely a value trough." Investment director, Mr. Zhou, added. The municipal government work report also mentioned expanding the urban framework eastward. The policy direction is very clear. Vice President Zhang didn't speak, but there was obvious skepticism in his eyes. Liu Xinrong leaned forward, waiting for my next words. I met his gaze. "What you're saying all makes sense, but you missed a decisive variable, the anti-corruption campaign." The private room instantly fell silent. The newly arrived mayor was transferred over from neighboring city's Nanchang New District, where they just experienced a political earthquake last year. If his first act of power isn't cracking down hard, how can he establish authority? I lightly tapped my fingers on the tabletop. Eastward expansion involves too much land transfers, relocation compensation, project bidding. The waters are too deep. He won't touch it during this sensitive period. On the contrary, my tone was firm. He'll choose the path of least resistance, the direction that yields political achievements most easily. I pointed toward the southwest, Old City redevelopment, Binjiang expansion. Property rights are complex there, so no one dares to reach their hands out blindly. There's an existing foundation, plus Riverview resources. Once policies get slightly clear, the value shoots up immediately. As for the east side, I shook my head. It's a pressure cooker right now. Whoever jumps in might get pinned down by the anti-corruption lid, unable to move for 3 to 5 years. As my voice fell, there was complete silence. I saw the expressions of those three executives froze on their faces. Liu Xinrong's hand holding the teacup stopped mid-air, his gaze shifting from shock to sudden realization. He suddenly remembered a leader casually mentioning at a dinner party a few days ago. Upgrading the old city is also a direction. I turned my head and met Xu Meng's gaze. Her eyes were wide open, staring at me, full of surprise, utter shock and amazement. Political achievements, Liu Xinrong mumbled, repeating it, then suddenly put down his teacup heavily, standing up abruptly. He walked around the table, picked up the teapot, and personally refilled my tea. "Only considering economics, without considering politics, is a fool's move, Brother Chen. You gave us a crucial lesson today." I saw the three executives gasp for air. When had Liu Xinrong ever been this humble to anyone? "Brother Liu, you're overstating it. I just said it casually. Don't blame me if I'm wrong." "Said it casually?" Liu Xinrong shook his head. "Every word is worth gold." "No, what is gold worth?" "These words are worth tens of billions." Liu Xinrong sat back down, his eyes gleaming brightly. "Brother, you helped out so much. I can't just take it for free. What I said outside still stands. Whatever you want. I'll gift you a unit." Zhu Meng fiercely clutched my hand under the table. "Gifting it isn't necessary. I shook my head. I'll buy it. Buy it. Where do you want to buy? Pick anywhere. I'll give you the lowest price. No. I smiled faintly. I want a stall in the southeast area, at Wanjiahui Wholesale Market, plus a small unit in the neighboring Wenchen Jiayuan residential area. About 80 or 90 square meters will do. I saw everyone freeze in shock. The southeast area was an unabsorbed, remote plot of land owned by the company, with supporting facilities built on the side. The tier was low and it didn't make money at all. Brother, are you kidding? Liu Xinrong frowned. That place is too remote. I'll give you a river view flat at Jinbi Haiyan. I'll give you an ocean view penthouse with a massive river view screen at Gold Coast. I still shook my head. I'm in the fruit business. Over at the wholesale market suits me. Having a home right next to it makes living convenient. Liu Xinrong stared at me for a few seconds and suddenly laughed. There was helplessness as well as appreciation in his smile. Fine. If you insist on buying, I won't stop you. Saying that, he slapped the table. You picked the stall yourself? At cost price 100,000? Give me a penny more and I'll fall out with you. 100,000? This was no different from giving it away for free. I raised my glass and gesture, all right. Brother Liu, thanks a lot. As the teacups lightly clinked, I could feel Jumeng's gaze resting on my face the entire time. She looked at me, then looked at those three executives who hadn't snapped back to reality yet, her lips moving slightly. But in the end, she said nothing. After making an appointment with Liu Xinrong to check out the shops the next day, we headed home. Zhu Meng went to the fruit stand first. She actually wanted to upgrade the small stall into a wholesale supermarket in the big market, so she had to pack up all those bits and pieces on the stall in advance. I held Tianqian and walked home first. Just as I entered the tenement building, I was blocked by Auntie Huang, who was holding her grandson's hand. Yo, Tianqian, last time you were playing around with Xiaobao. What did Grandma say? Kids need to be obedient. If you don't listen to Grandma, you'll get sick. Remember that. Hearing these words, a surge of anger instantly rushed up inside me. Whether my daughter is well behaved or not, don't I know it myself. Her getting sick was because she was naughty and disobedient bullshit. I looked down at Tianqian, the little kid visibly shrinking back a bit. Tianqian, my voice was clear. From now on, outside. If anyone makes you uncomfortable, come back and tell Daddy. Daddy will protect you. With that said, I turned to leave. Hey, don't be in such a rush. She chased after me. I heard treating Tianqian's illness cost big bucks. Are you guys gonna sell the apartment? My steps paused. Who did you hear that from? It spread everywhere. If you guys are really selling, I'll buy it. We're old neighbors. Don't make the price too high. As she spoke, she actually pulled out a piece of candy from her grandson's filthy pocket and tried to shove it toward Tianqian's mouth. Eat some candy? I grabbed her wrist, snatched the candy away, and casually tossed it. The apartment isn't for sale. Stop listening to nonsense. With that, I turned and headed upstairs. Behind me came her cursing voice. Bah! Wastrel, what are you fronting for? Serves you right to be broke till you die. When Shumeng came back, the moment she heard it was Auntie Huang, her face darkened. A notorious busybody in the compound back in the day. Ignore her. We didn't take it to heart, knowing that gossip could whip up a storm. The next evening, as I was playing with Changqian, Shumeng's phone rang. She picked up and listened to a few sentences, and her face changed. Mom, what are you talking about selling the apartment? There's no such thing. Mom, the call hung up. She looked at me, her brows tightly knit. My mom said Auntie Huang ran into them at the supermarket and said, we're planning to sell the apartment. My dad is pissed off. Just as I was about to speak, my phone rang. It was Liu Xinrong's secretary calling to confirm the time to inspect the shops tomorrow. Hanging up the phone, I saw Shumeng staring at me, hesitating to speak. What's wrong? Nothing. She shook her head, then added another line. My dad is super stubborn. If he believed Auntie Huang's words, he'll definitely make a move. I held her hand. About the apartment tomorrow, once the paperwork is done, everything will be clear. Everything about the house will be crystal clear after we finalize the paperwork tomorrow. He nodded, but the anxiety between his brows didn't disperse. What I didn't know was that, at this very moment, Xu Zhengqi was rummaging through drawers and cabinets at home looking for the property deed. Once he found it, he clutched that dark red certificate, his eyes turning fierce. Isn't he eyeing this house? Fine, I'll let him try. Umanru stood to the side, her eyes red. Old Shu, do you really have to do this? What if Meng Meng? Xu Zhengqi interrupted her. She's completely blinded right now, waiting for Chen Zuisheng to set his sights on this house. Then mother and daughter will truly have nowhere to live. He shoved the property deed into his coat, gritting his teeth. I'm going tomorrow to process it. Once the reverse mortgage for reverse pension goes through, this house will have nothing to do with them anymore, unless Chen Zuisheng scrambles out and Meng Meng agrees to a divorce. Otherwise, don't even think about living in this house. Gu Manru opened her mouth, but ended up saying nothing. Outside the window, the night was heavy, and the lights in the tenement building went out one after another. During breakfast, Xu Meng looked quite happy. I could feel her anticipation for checking out the shops today. Qian kicked her little legs and asked her mom, will we have a super big fruit shop from now on? That's right. Zhu Meng's voice was light and brisk. Whatever Qian wants to eat, we'll have. Yay! the aroma of porridge mixed with the scent of fried eggs, simple and peaceful. However, before long, knocking sounds came heavy and urgent. Zhu Ming went to open the door. Xu Zhengqi and his wife stood outside with ashen faces. Mom, Dad, why? Interrupting you guys, discussing selling the house. Xu Zhengqi took a step inside, his eyes glaring straight at me. Selling the house? Xu Ming froze. Gu Manru pointed at me with red eyes. Chen Zuisheng, is it because you can't pay off your debts that you're eyeing selling the house? Do you have no shame? I put down my chopsticks. Mom, Dad, you've got it wrong. I don't owe money and I won't sell the house. Shut up. Xu Zhengqi abruptly cut me off. Is there a single word of truth coming out of your mouth? He turned to Xu Meng, raising his voice. Meng, this divorce is a must. Right now he owes a huge debt of 2 million. Even the house has to be sold. If you don't get a divorce, do you want to sleep on the streets with Chiang Qian? Xu Ming got anxious. Mom, Dad, you've got it wrong. None of this is real. Who did you hear this nonsense from? Who else do we need to hear it from? Gu Manru shed tears. The whole neighborhood is talking about it. Meng, Mom feels so sorry for you. Just get a divorce and come back to Mom and Dad. The house is kept for you and we'll cover the medical expenses. Not getting a divorce, fire flared up in Xu Meng's voice. We know very well how our lives are. We don't need you guys to... What do you know? Xu Zhengqi shouted angrily. I think you're completely blinded. Give me a straight answer today. He glared at Xu Meng, emphasizing word by word. Are you getting this divorce or not? Xu Meng bit her lip without saying a word. Not getting a divorce, fine. His chest heaved up and down. I'm taking back this house. Whether you guys are rich or poor has nothing to do with the Xu family anymore. Just pretend I never had you as a daughter. Those last few words stabbed into Xu Meng's heart like an awl. I saw her body sway, her face turning pale. Tears welled up, yet she stubbornly refused to let them fall. She looked at my father's contorted face, and my mother weeping, not daring to look at her. Then she wiped her eyes, her voice trembling, yet crystal clear. Not divorcing if you want to sever ties? Go ahead, we won't live in this house anymore. We'll move out today. Xu Zhengqi widened his eyes, staring at his daughter as if for the very first time. Good. You've got guts. He was shaking with anger. Tomorrow, I'm coming to reclaim the house. With that said, he pulled Gu Manru, turned around, and left. Gu Manru turned her head back stumblingly. Meng, how did you turn out like this? Your father is doing this for your own good. Zhu Meng shouted at their backs. He was the one who said he wanted to sever ties. He was the one who said he wanted to reclaim the house. I agreed to it. So isn't that being obedient? Gu Manru was choked up, her expression turning ugly. You're just completely blinded following this guy named Chen. You don't even want your parents anymore. I'll just pretend I never gave birth to a daughter like you. The door was slammed shut heavily. A few seconds later, Xu Meng threw herself into my arms, her suppressed crying pouring right out. How could they say those kind of words? She was trembling all over as she cried. I hugged her tight and gently patted her back. Qian Qian hugged her mom's leg, crying softly. Mommy, don't cry. Once Xu Meng calmed down, I wiped away her tears and looked at her bloodshot eyes, then looked around the dilapidated, cramped room. Always living here isn't right either. We should have a place of our own. But... She raised her head to look at me. Don't worry about the money. Hold my hand, let's go check out the shops. She nodded, went back to the bedroom and dug out a light blue dress. I recognized it. It was the best piece of clothing she had bought after we got married. Normally, she couldn't bear to wear it easily. Watching her size up that old dress, my heart felt a sting. There was still over 3 million sitting in the bank account. It was time to buy her and our daughter some decent things. Let's go. Xu Meng changed into the dress and smiled at me. Let's go check out our big career. We went downstairs, and just as we reached the roadside, a car horn honked beep beep beside us. Turning around, the window of a black Mercedes rolled down, revealing Liu Xinrong's smiling face. Brother, sister-in-law, get in. I was slightly surprised, then smiled. This Liu Xinrong didn't even bring a driver. He actually drove over in person. The car drove toward the southeast district. On the way, Liu Xinrong casually chatted, Brother, Wanjiahui was originally built just to utilize leftover parcels of land. The location is remote, it's neither the new city nor the old city. He turned into a slightly dated road. This area is called the Relocation Resettlement Zone. A lot of people relocated from the old city area were resettled here. The roads are wide and the buildings are new, but the supporting facilities can't keep up, and the subway hasn't connected here yet. Looking out the window, I said, once people settle down, they have to live. Demand will gradually rise up. I knew very well in my heart that, because of the relocation resettlement, this place would be over the next few years. One of Ninghai's hidden cores with the strongest grassroots economic vitality and the highest popularity. As the earliest formed and largest comprehensive wholesale market in this area, Wanjiahui would become a giant magnet. Its shop spaces look unimpressive right now, but very soon, finding a stall here will be nearly impossible. Not to mention supporting 3 generations, providing our family of 3 with food and clothing for a lifetime without worries would be more than enough. The car stopped outside the market. Zhu Meng looked at the empty parking lot and the quiet main gate, frowning and whispering, Zuisheng, can this place really work? Liu Xinrong said sincerely, brother, I still have a few small storefronts on Binjiang Road Pedestrian Street. The location is absolute fire. I'll hook you up with one. I shook my head. The consumer scene on Binjiang Road doesn't fit us. This place right here is pretty good. Don't mind how quiet it is now. In the future, this place is gonna blow up insanely big. Liu Xinrong had a smile on his face, yet his eyes betrayed confusion. I casually dropped a hint, brother Liu, the shares you hold in Wanjiahui, don't be in a rush to transfer them. If any minor shareholders want to cash out, just buy them up. In the future, this whole southeast area, Wanjiahui here will be a golden egg-laying treasure land. Every inch of land will be worth its weight in gold. Liu Xinrong's eyes narrowed. Brother, are you for real? I met his gaze. Real or fake? It depends on whether you're willing to believe it or not. Liu Xinrong didn't speak anymore, looking around the empty outer area of the market, deep in thought. Let's go inside and take a look. He regained his hearty tone, leading us inside. When the management staff saw Liu Xinrong, they jogged over Director Liu. Take us to check out the empty shop spaces, especially the prime spots. The management staff attentively led the way, bringing us to a prime location near the main entrance. Director Liu, Mr. Chen, take a look at this unit. He pointed to a storefront that was 50% larger in area. This is one of the largest shop spaces in our market. The location is top tier. The size is huge with great display effect. Whatever business you run here will look imposing. The shop space was indeed pretty solid, spacious and well lit. Liu Xinrong looked at me. Brother, are you satisfied with this one? Zhu Meng's eyes lit up for a second, waiting for my decision. I shook my head, not this one. The management staff was stunned. Brother, this location is the absolute best. I shook my head, turning my gaze deeper into the market. Let's go take a look over by the side entrance. The side entrance, the management staff was puzzled. The foot traffic over there is way lower. The location is out of the way. Just lead the way. Arriving at the northwest side entrance, this place was close to the freight lane and the edge of the parking lot, with scarce foot traffic. Most of the row of storefronts near the side entrance were vacant, their glass covered in dust. My gaze landed on an unassuming shop space. It didn't directly face the side entrance, recessing slightly inward, with a load-bearing pillar right beside it. I pointed at it. This unit, Shumeng couldn't help but speak up, looking at the deserted surrounding environment, then looking at that shop space tucked behind the pillar, her face full of confusion. Liu Xinrong also frowned. Brother, this location is way too out of the way. Natural lighting is affected, and the pillar blocks the view. How about we look further ahead? No need to look further. My tone was firm right here. Why this one? Zhu Meng asked in a quiet voice. I lowered my voice. Because this is feng shui. Good feng shui. I pointed at the load-bearing pillar. Look at this pillar. In feng shui, it represents a stable backing. The shop space being recessed is called gathering qi and harboring wind. Once wealth qi enters, it doesn't easily scatter. Then I pointed at the freight lane outside the side entrance. Over there, cars coming and going is movement. Our spot here is still, combining movement and stillness, endless growth and vitality. Zhu Meng listened, completely baffled and amazed. Liu Xinrong was between laughter and tears, no longer trying to persuade me. All right, if brother takes a liking to it, then this is it. He said to the management staff, just this unit, prepare the contract. He didn't even go back to the office, having the management staff bring the contract straight to the Mercedes. Right inside the car, Zhu Meng and I signed the lease agreement, a 30-year lease term renewable. Total rent 100,000. This price was basically giving it away for free. Holding the contract, Zhu Meng showed her most relieved smile of the day. Zui Sheng, where are we going now? Since the shop space is settled, let's look for an apartment nearby. If there's a suitable one, we'll buy it. Buy a house. Zhu Meng's eyes lit up again. Yup, buy a house. Liu Xinrong chimed in. Brother, you want to buy a house around here? Alright, nearby there's Yuejing Tai, Southeast Pearl. They're all developed by our company or partners. Whichever spot you fancy, I'll arrange the absolute lowest price for you. I shook my head. No need for those. Let's just go check out Wengxin Jiayuan. Wengxin Jiayuan. Liu Xinrong froze for a moment. That was a relocation resettlement house from a few years back, sold out and handed over long ago. Right now, it was all secondhand houses circulating. I understood what he meant. He could maneuver the price on new homes, but secondhand houses weren't easy to directly intervene in pricing. I chuckled softly. I know, new home, old home, it doesn't matter, as long as the location fits. With just one phone call from Liu Xinrong, in less than 15 minutes, a white van pulled up. The car door slid open, and a man in his 40s with a slight potbelly stepped down. Director Liu, why did you come in person? He trotted over all the way, reaching out both hands wide, then turned to us. My surname is Zhou Fulai from Fulai Real Estate. Whatever Director Liu ordered, leave it to me. Liu Xinrong gave a faint nod. Lao Zhou. Mr. Chen here is my brother. He wants to look at apartments in Wengxin Jiayuan. Got any suitable ones? Got 'em, of course I do. Zhou Fulai patted his chest. Since Director Liu spoke up, agency fee is waived. Just making a friend. There are 4 units for sale in Wengxin Jiayuan. We inspected them one by one. 3 units were fairly average. The last unit was on the top floor. The moment the door was pushed open, sunshine flooded the entire place. A rough-cast house with concrete floors, whitewashed walls bright and clean. Jumong walked into the living room, gasping slightly as she looked out. Outside was a terrace, a whole 60-plus square meters. Zhou Fulai leaned in to explain, Mrs. Chen, strictly speaking, this terrace is a common area, but look at this layout. Only this single unit is on the top floor. Outsiders can't wander up here. If you seal off the door, it's basically your own private garden. Jumong didn't speak, just standing in the sunshine, gazing at that open space. I walked over. If we seal this place up, put up a trellis over there to grow roses, build a flower bed over here, and plant a few hydrangeas, then put a rattan table in the southeast corner with 2 chairs. On summer evenings, we can drink tea, eat watermelon, and watch the stars. Zumeng turned her head to look at me, saying nothing, but her eyes quietly turned red. The apartment was 120 square meters, plus the terrace usable space was 180 square meters. I looked at her. Meng, do you like it? She didn't answer immediately, just turned back around and looked for a long time, then gently nodded her head. Liu Xinrong chimed in right away. Brother, this unit is locked in. Don't worry about the renovation. I'll handle it. He made a big gesture. This project was developed by our company. We have all the blueprints. Enclose the terrace like many others do. Open a door from the living room. Put a spiral staircase outside. Add glass on top. Brother, the material warehouse has everything ready. Perfect to give you a hand. Zuming asked, then how much would that cost? Oh my. Liu Xinrong laughed out loud. Sister-in-law, don't you bring up money with me? It's just a quick favor during renovation. He had simply determined to build a relationship with me. I didn't play modest either. All right. Thanks a lot, Brother Liu. As Zhou Fulai was about to finalize this unit, Manager Zhou, I turned to him. I want all 4 of these units. What? Zhou Fulai was stunned. Zumeng abruptly turned her head looking at me, in total disbelief. Liu Xinrong was also surprised. Brother, do you feel the area isn't big enough? I have a 300 square meter small villa over at Yuejingtai. Just take it, no need to. I smiled and waved my hand. Brother Liu, I genuinely like this location. I looked out the window. It's close to Wanjiahui, within walking distance. Right next door is a kindergarten, making it convenient for Qianqian to go to school, and for Meng to look after the business. Zhu tugged at my sleeve and lowered her voice. No need to buy 4 units either, even though we still have over 3 million in the account. I held her hand back. Don't worry, we won't lose money. She opened her mouth and ultimately swallowed her worries. I turned to Zhou Fulai. Manager Zhou, let's prepare the contracts for all 4 units. Full payment for all 4 units was just over 2 million, leaving over 1 million in the account, which was plenty for launching the shop and handling turnover. The contract signing went smoothly, and moving was even smoother. With just 1 call from Liu Xinrong, a small truck arrived in half an hour. 3 young guys finished moving everything before noon. Since the top floor needed renovation, we stayed in a 5th floor unit as a transition. The previous owner hadn't lived here much. A simple cleanup, hanging new curtains, and the windows were bright and spotless. Zhu placed the pothos she had raised for several years on the windowsill. Qianqian took off her shoes and ran back and forth on the new floor, dashing from this room to that room, like a joyful little bird. Mommy, is this room mine? Daddy, are we gonna live here from now on? Zhu sat on the new sofa set that Liu Xinrong just sent over. He said it was a warehouse sample, but in fact it was brand new, not even having its protective film peeled off. She looked around, watching her daughter running around, her gaze feeling a bit dazed. Yesterday, she was still squeezed in that dark, damp old dump. This morning, she was still fiercely arguing with her parents. Now she sat inside a spacious, bright new home, having a shop under her name, as well as 4 houses with both her and my names on them. That top floor unit with the terrace was still waiting for us to turn it into a sky garden. It was too fast, so fast it felt like a dream. Sunlight poured in from outside the window, refracting tiny specks of light in her slightly moist eyes. Seeing my wife move like this, at that moment I felt spending this 2+ million was totally worth it. 2 million for 4 houses. I knew very well in my heart just how worth it spending this money was. In another year, Ninghai's educational landscape was going to usher in an earthquake-level reshuffle. A veteran leader in the capital city who originated from Ninghai was about to step down from an important position. The old man had been reserved all his life, except for this single time, when he actively proposed that he wanted to leave a school on this land where he was born. Not just in name, not a donated build, it was legitimately bringing the best educational resources in Beijing. Huabei attached elementary into Ninghai, and the chosen location for the branch campus was right on the empty lot next door to Wenxin Jiayuan. The first batch of student admissions for Huabei attached elementary Ninghai branch had everyone breaking their heads to get in. The red line for school district zoning happened to circle the entire Wenxin Jiayuan right inside. Overnight, this relocation resettlement community that everyone looked down on transformed completely into Ninghai's most sought-after top-tier school district housing. Property prices shot up like a rocket. Those old neighbors who had taken houses here during the relocation back then muddle-headedly achieved a second wave of getting rich. Some sold one house, enough for their son to put down a down payment in Shanghai. Some swapped the old house they lived in for half a lifetime into hard cash, allowing the old couple to travel around the world. During those 2 years, the entirety of Ninghai was discussing Wenqin Jiayuan. Envious ones, jealous ones regretting not taking action, ones stomping their feet and cursing. Every kind of expression was there. And right now, I have 4 units in my hands. When the prices hit the peak, I'll choose the right timing to sell off 3 units and keep 1 for ourselves. By that time, never mind having no worries about food and clothes for a lifetime. Even if Meng Meng decides to chill out from now on, she can chill comfortably for the rest of her life. Of course, if I wanted to earn even more, relying on the information and funds in my hands, I could completely sweep through several surrounding communities as well. But there's no need. Reborn once more. I've gradually come to understand one thing. Money is endless. Money is something I spent my entire past life exhausting myself for, going from having nothing to building $100 billion net worth. But in the end, what did it get me? In this life, having enough money is all that matters. My daughter's smiling face, my wife's eyes, and the peaceful time of our family sitting around the table, eating together. These are what's truly real for me. Zhuhai sat in his car for almost 20 minutes, the phone gripping hot in his palm. Finally, he started the car after all. His father had roared so fiercely over the phone. If he really didn't go, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to return to this family anymore. The car twisted and turned through twists and turns, stopping beneath that familiar tube apartment building. He took a deep breath, went upstairs and knocked on the door. Nobody answered. He knocked again, still no movement. He went downstairs and jogged over to the fruit stall at the alley entrance. The empty stall was packed up neat and clean. Even that old electronic scale was gone. The auntie selling vegetables next door poked her head out and recognized him. "Oh my, little Shu looking for your sister." "My sister, did they move?" "They moved at noon." The auntie's loud voice chimed in brightly. A big truck came over, a few young guys clattering away, and in no time it was completely cleared out. I was still wondering, after living here for over 10 years, how could they just move as soon as they said so? Zhuhai's brain went buzz. Where did they move to? Well, I wouldn't know that. The auntie shook her head. "Didn't your sister tell you?" Zhuhai didn't answer. He stood in front of the empty fruit stall, clutching his phone motionless for a long time. All of this was later when Shumeng answered the phone, and I pieced it together from her scattered brief phrases. That night, her phone rang. She picked it up, listened to a few words, and her expression changed. Without speaking, she handed the phone directly to me. I took the phone and heard Chu Zhengqi's full of energy voice on the other end, speaking with righteous arrogance. "Chen Kuisheng, listen to me. That apartment was allocated by my workplace. The property rights are in my hands. I've already invested it into a house for pension project, and tomorrow I'm going to process the paperwork. Unless you divorce Meng Meng, don't even think about living in this house." I held the phone and remained silent for 2 seconds, then said, "Dad, we've already moved out." The other end of the line also went silent for 2 seconds. "Moved out. Right, moved out this noon. The house is freed up. You can come reclaim it anytime." There was another wave of silence, and then the call was hung up. I returned the phone to Shumeng. She looked at me, her eyes red, but she didn't cry. Her voice was a bit shaky. "Did they really invest the house into it?" "Yup." She lowered her head, clutching the phone, saying nothing for a long time. Then she raised her head to look at me, forcing out a faint smile. "Forget it, we're not going back anyway." I nodded and pulled her into my arms. After the Wanjiahui fruit wholesale supermarket was renovated and opened for business, the business was lukewarm during the first month. Zhu Meng, looking at the empty storefront at times, would have a flash of anxiety in her eyes. I wasn't in a rush. There was still spare cash in the account. The shop space was our own, and there was no rent to pay. The top floor unit was still under renovation. Life is lived day by day, not rushed through day by day. A month later, Liu Xinrong called, saying the renovation was finished. They wanted us to come over for inspection. The moment the door was pushed open, Jumeng froze in her tracks completely. The wall between the living room and the terrace had been completely knocked through. Liu Xinrong actually installed a glass folding door, hanging from the ceiling all the way down to the floor. Right now, with the door fully pushed open, sunshine poured in from the terrace, filling the entire house with golden brilliance. The terrace had completely transformed. Anti-corrosion wood was laid over the concrete floor. Flower beds were built in the corners, planted with climbing roses and blue plumbagos. The trellis was already set up. The vines hadn't fully covered it yet, but green leaves were already climbing up bit by bit. In the southeast corner, a rattan-trimmed round table, 2 chairs, and even a coarse pottery vase sat on the table, holding a few hydrangeas. A glass dome covered half of the terrace, crystal clear without blocking the sunlight, nor afraid of rainy days. Jumong slowly walked inside, staring for a long time, and then she covered her mouth, her eyes turning red. Qian Qian was a little girl who came rushing in with the scream. She was originally downstairs, being taken by Liu Xinrong, assistant, to look at the apple tree in her heart. Turning back and realizing mom and dad were gone, she kicked her short legs and ran upstairs. When the door opened, she was stunned. And then, whoa. She charged into the living room, spun around in a circle, dashed onto the terrace and spun around again. Apple tree, trellis round table, glass ceiling, every single thing made her let out a, whoa. Mommy, it's so pretty here. Looking at the mother and daughter, all of a sudden, those tens of billions contract signings and M&As from my past life, those highlight moments standing under the spotlight, couldn't even match 1/10,000th of this moment. And good things kept coming one after another. 2 months later, the fruit wholesale supermarket, which originally had quiet business, suddenly blew up. The cause was Sumung the beauty streamer. This was an idea I came up with. I said, Mung, you're coming and going in the shop every day with new customers around. Why not try starting a live stream? No need to deliberately hawk products either. Just set up a phone and film how you usually sell fruit, how you organize inventory, and how you chat with customers. Jumung was a bit dazed at the time. Live streaming, I don't know how to do all that. No need for all that. I said, just be yourself. I bought her 2 outfits, not the flashy streamer outfits, just cotton linen shirts and plain colored aprons. Her hair tied up casually, looking fresh and clean. The lighting didn't use those weird bizarre filters either. Just a warm-toned fill light shining on the fruit stall. The background was the stall at Wanjiahui, with seasonal fresh fruits neatly stacked on wooden shelves and handwritten price tags in Qianqian's crooked handwriting. During the first week, the livestream room averaged 3 to 5 people online. Zhu Ming wasn't in a hurry either. When no one was talking, she'd lower her head to organize inventory, occasionally looking up to smile at the camera, saying a few words like, "The strawberries are very sweet today," or "The blueberries just arrived." In the second week, one night, she was scrolling through her phone and stumbled upon a direct sales blueberry farmer in the neighboring province, squatting at the edge of the field, sighing heavily. Jumeng watched it several times. Early the next morning, she called the supplier and directly bought out 500 caddies. She didn't use this matter to make a scene. She simply put that batch of blueberries on the shelves during the stream and casually mentioned, "This farmer's blueberries are delicious. Fruit farmers have it tough, so helping out a bit where we can is what matters." That night, hundreds of people suddenly poured into the stream room, the chat bullet screen flying by crazy fast. "Sis is so pretty. Is helping the farmers for real?" Already placed an order supporting conscientious sellers. Zhuming was totally flustered, replying in a complete panic, her face turning all red. On the second day, the platform started pushing traffic. Once the farmer's support tag was slapped on, the traffic surged like floodgates opening. By the third day, orders started pouring in. They weren't coming in one by one. They were piling up batch by batch. The order printing machine buzzed from morning till night, never stopping for a second. Not only online, offline blew up as well. Wanjiahui's main entrance was blocked off. The municipal pipe network renovation project launched an all-out assault slated for an estimated 8 months. Once the main entrance was sealed, cars couldn't get in. The customer traffic originally aiming for Main Street shops swarmed toward the north side gate all at once. And the north side gate happened to be where mine and Shumeng's shop was. Trucks lined up one after another in front of my shop, forming a long queue. Unloading at the front, loading up at the back. Over here, mangoes were just put on the shelf. Over there, wholesalers were already clutching receipts coming to place orders. "Boss, give me 5 more boxes of yellow mangoes. Are there any Shine Muscat grapes left? Give me 10 crates of cherries. Can cherries be a bit cheaper? I'm buying in bulk." In just a single day, Zhu Ming and I were so busy that smoke was practically coming out of us. Forget eating meals. Even drinking water required squeezing in time between tasks. Arriving home, Shumeng leaned against the sofa, not even having the strength to raise her hand and fix her hair. The next day, I quickly asked Liu Xinrong for help, hiring 5 people to come over, which finally allowed us to catch our breath a little. "Brother, I've got all the people assembled for you." Liu Xinrong's voice sounded booming over the phone. I wiped my hands, clamping the phone between my ear and shoulder. "Brother Liu, thanks for all the trouble." "No trouble at all doing things for you. I know what I'm doing." He paused for a second and began listing them off in detail. One truck driver, a veteran, drove big rigs for 8 years, holds a Class A license with a clean record, plus 2 young girls. One studied e-commerce and worked at an MCN agency, knowing the ropes of a live stream traffic algorithms. The other studied media. Looks cute with a sweet tongue, can keep up the hype in the stream room. He lowered his voice. "Brother, I'm seriously impressed. How did you know that roadwork was happening at the main gate? Was it really figured out through feng shui?" I chuckled softly. "Brother Liu, you're in real estate. Whether feng shui works or not, don't you know even better than me?" The other end of the line went silent for half a second, followed by a hearty burst of laughter. Right. Some things only exist if you believe in them. Brother, I'm genuinely sold on your vision." I didn't explain further. The 8-month underground pipe network roadwork at the main gate was indeed something I knew in advance. In my previous life, Wanjiahui's north gate became the main entrance/exit precisely because of this reason. That corner, which used to be the most quiet and deserted, was forcibly trampled into prime real estate by the sheer volume of cars and foot traffic. Back then, a feng shui master even ran over specially, pointing at that pillar by the north gate saying, "This is called dragon pillar suppressing water." And the adjacent shop is side reclining storing wind, making it sound insanely mystical. This wave of location advantage was now snatched up by me, but what even I hadn't fully anticipated was that Xu Meng's live stream would blow up to this extent. A no-makeup beauty helping farmers, boosting domestic consumption, rural revitalization. Xu Meng hyped every single tag that the platform wanted to push. Traffic surged toward her like a dam breaking, sometimes snatching a moment of leisure amidst the chaos. She would sit beside the shelves, staring blankly into space. Kushang, I calculated the accounts again today. Last month, combining online and offline, we hit 1.37 million, with a net profit of 210,000. Her expression was a bit dazed. Sometimes when I wake up in the morning and stare at the ceiling, I wonder if this is all a dream. When I wake up from the dream, we're still in that tube apartment. Qiangqian is sleeping against the wall. And you haven't come home yet, what? She didn't continue speaking. I held her hand. It's not a dream. Even if it were a dream, it's a dream we earned ourselves. She raised her head, her eyes a little red. I had to shift my wife's attention. Meng Meng, yeah, is earning money really the most important thing for us right now? She turned her face to look at me. I said, Qiangqian has to go to the hospital for a checkup next month, and her kindergarten is starting to assign homework. Xu Meng remained silent for a few seconds. Are you saying I spend too little time with her? I'm saying we're not short on money now. I looked into her eyes. What we're short on is the time to accompany her growing up. She took a deep breath. I know, but I just can't stop. Sometimes I feel like if I stop, all these things will run away. They won't run away, I said with a smile. Yet she suddenly frowned, saying seriously, Qiangqian is starting elementary school next year. The nearest public elementary school around here has very average teaching quality. The good ones in the city are either strictly zoned or require school choice fees. School district houses in the city center. Even the old crappy ones go for 40 to 50,000 per square meter. A 50 to 60 square meter unit starts at over 3 million. She spoke faster and faster, as if being pushed forward by something. No, I still need to earn a bit more. Looking at her like this, I was both amused and helpless. Meng Meng, rest assured, our daughter is blessed. A blessed person doesn't need to hustle frantically. She froze for a moment, obviously not quite understanding. I didn't rush to explain either. The matter about Huabei Attached Elementary couldn't be revealed yet. The time hadn't come. When that news is officially announced, half of Ninghai will go crazy. The business of the fruit wholesale supermarket grew like a rolling snowball, getting bigger and bigger. The company was officially registered. The name was picked by me, Mengsheng Fruit Industry. When Xu Meng saw the business license, looking at those two adjacent characters, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. It's official now. I suggested my wife set higher salaries. She nodded and bumped the pay up by a tier. Things ran much smoother in the shop, and the two of us finally didn't have to be glued to the shop every day, especially the live stream room. The young girls picked things up quickly. Xu Meng only appeared at specific times, but every time she went online, the chat blew up. The tag Fruit Beauty had somehow been slapped onto her, spreading around just like that. That afternoon, Xu Meng's phone rang. Hanging up the phone, she told me, the management committee of our old market notified me to pick up our return deposit. How much? 2,000? I laughed. It's not even worth half a day's income for us now. Still, we can't just leave it and benefit the management committee, right? She rolled her eyes at me, already starting to change her shoes. 20 minutes later, Xu Meng stood at that familiar alley entrance. The tiny crappy fruit stall had already changed owners. The newly installed storefront sign looked bright and neat. She stared for a few seconds, shook her head, and turned to walk toward the management committee. All of this was what she told me after returning home. In the management committee office, the moment Director Zhou saw her, he was so warm and welcoming, he seemed like a completely different person. After finishing the paperwork, Director Zhou pulled her into a chat, asking where we live now. Xu Meng casually said, next to Wan Jiahui, Wengxin Jiayuan. Director Zhou's eyes instantly went wide open. Wengxin Jiayuan. You guys live in Wengxin Jiayuan? Xu Meng was stunned. What's wrong? Director Zhou didn't answer, turned around, pulled out a document, and slapped it in front of her. It was a copy of an official red-headed document. The title was very long, and Xu Meng caught a few keywords at a single glance. Site selection for Huabei Attached Elementary Ninghai Branch. School district zoning. Moving her gaze down a line, that row of text read Wengxin Jiayuan is zoned into the school's admission scope. Below it, there was small print with the release date 13 days ago. What does this mean? Xu Meng didn't react for a moment. Director Zhou chattered on beside her. Your area is now a school district property. Huabei Attached Elementary is a top-tier school, the best school district in all of Ninghai. Who used to give a damn about those crappy houses in Wengxin Jiayuan? Guess how much per square meter it is now? Xu Meng opened her mouth, unable to make a sound. 130,000. Director Zhou held up two fingers. 130,000, and you still can't snap one up. Thinking Shumeng was renting, he said with a face full of pity, "Oh my, if you guys had bought a unit there earlier, it would have been so great. Renting is just helping the landlord pay off their mortgage. Those people are making a massive fortune now. Just think about it, 130,000 per square meter. Any random 100 square meter unit is worth over 10 million. Zumeng froze right there, over 10 million. Wengxin Jiayuan is 130,000 per square meter. The community where she had 4 houses under her name, 4 houses. She told me later that her legs went completely weak at that moment, and she slowly sat down while holding onto the table. Director Zhou was startled. What's wrong? Why is your face so pale? Are you feeling unwell somewhere? Zumeng shook her head, opened her mouth, her voice floating airily. Sister Zhou, how much did you say the house price at Wenshin Jiayuan was just now? 130,000, what's wrong? Zumeng didn't speak, just sat there blankly, staring motionlessly at that document on the table. Then she dialed my phone number. When the phone vibrated, I was checking inventory in the store. The screen flashed the words, wife. I picked it up. No sound on the other end. Just a muffled voice. Wengxin Jiayuan hit 130,000. I was stunned. Huabei Attached Elementary Branch is right next door. The school district was zoned in. 130,000 per square meter. I leaned against the shelf, indeed feeling a bit surprised in my heart. In my previous life, this news was announced a year later. In this life, it was moved up by more than half a year. Meng Meng, come back first. Let's go to the agency and check it out. Okay, she responded, then paused again. Kusheng, when you bought those 4 houses back then, did you know something in advance? I chuckled softly. How could that be possible? If I could know in advance, I would have directly borrowed money to sweep up the entire community. Why would I bother opening a fruit shop? And the other end went quiet for another few seconds, and then she softly hummed a response and hung up the phone. She rushed back, but another person arrived first. A big black Benz pulled up right in front of the store, and Liu Xinrong strode inside. Brother, you know about the school district house news at Wenshin Jiayuan, right? I put down the receipt, just found out. I was on a business trip and dashed straight to your place right after getting off the plane. He walked up to me, lowering his voice. Brother, tell me the truth. Did you know about this policy in advance? I smiled slowly. Brother Liu, if I could predict this school district property thing in advance, why would I still do fruit business? Liu Xinrong stared at me for several seconds and finally let out a chuckle. Brother, there are plenty of lucky people out there, but not a single one who is as insanely lucky and accurate as you. I smiled and didn't take the bait. When Shumeng returned, her face was still flushed. The 3 of us went straight to Future Real Estate. Only when we arrived did we realize something was wrong. The entrance was completely packed with a huge crowd of people, and the main entrance was almost bursting from the press. The inside was even more packed to the brim. Are there any listings left in Wenshin Jiayuan? Any layout is fine. I'll pay all cash. Zhou Fulai squeezed out from inside, his forehead covered in sweat. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he quickly came up to welcome us. Mr. Chen, you're here. The customers nearby were all dumbfounded. Why did this agency boss act like he just saw his real dad? When meeting this guy, I smiled. President Zhou business is looking great. It's all thanks to you. Zhou Fulai bowed and scraped, leading us into a small guest reception room. Mr. Chen, are you here this time to sell houses? Zhou Fulai's eyes sparkled. From Wengxin Jiayuan, yeah. How many units? Zhu Meng pursed her lips. The one on the 5th floor, and the one on the 3rd floor as well. We'll keep the top floor unit to live in ourselves, and hold on to the other one for now to wait and see. Zhou Fulai nodded repeatedly, starting to calculate the numbers. The tip of his pen scribbled rapidly as figures jumped out, and he pushed the paper in front of me. Mr. Chen, the unit on the 5th floor is 98 square meters, conservatively estimated at 12.5 million. The unit on the 3rd floor is 95 square meters, roughly 12.3 million. The 2 units combined come out to 24.8 million. I saw Shumeng's fingers tremble slightly. I nodded. All right, let's go with this price. Zhou Fulai nodded repeatedly, then remembered something. Mr. Chen, the agency fee? I smiled. President Zhou, you can't waive it this time, right? Zhou Fulai froze for a second, a complex expression emerging on his face. Mr. Chen, you told me last time that you'd let me earn back the agency fee next time. Back then, I just treated it as polite banter and didn't take it to heart. Turns out, you really came back. He looked at me with burning eyes. Liu Xinrong's gaze whipped over immediately, and Shumeng also turned her face to look at me. I smiled faintly, putting my arm around Shumeng's shoulder. It has nothing to do with me. It's because my wife is beautiful, kind-hearted, and brings prosperity to the home. Zhu Meng's face turned red with heat, and she swatted me lightly. My phone vibrated for a moment. 24.8 million had arrived. I glanced at it and shoved the phone back into my pocket. Zhu Meng, however, kept staring at her own phone screen, checking that string of numbers over and over several times, and counting with her fingers. Several times before raising her head. Kusheng, am I a multimillionaire now? I nodded, yep, but I don't feel a single thing at all. She frowned, her expression bewildered. The numbers are in the phone. The house is still sitting right there without moving, and the shop is still as busy as it should be. How did I suddenly become a multi-millionaire? Liu Xinrong burst out laughing beside us. Sister-in-law, rich people have to live a rich life. Only then do you get the real experience. Brother, take my advice. Change houses. A big villa over at Quihu, my company. Just rolled out a batch of standalone villas. Great environment, strong privacy. Comes with a yard and a garage. I'll save the best one for you. Just consider it my way of showing thanks. He said it sincerely, and I knew his hidden agenda as well. Once the news about the school district properties in Wenqin Jiayuan dropped this time, the properties in Wanjiahui, shares he hoarded, surged even harder than mine. After this whole wave, he didn't make a single bit less than developing 2 real estate projects. He wanted to get on my good side even more now. But I shook my head. Brother Liu, I appreciate the good intention, but we won't change houses. Jumeng nodded vigorously beside me. Right. I haven't had enough of living in the top floor sunroom yet. The climbing roses on the terrace just bloomed. I go up to check on them every single morning. It would be such a pity to move away. When she said this, her tone carried that kind of affection only young girls have. Looking at her, that small thought in my heart grew even firmer. In my past life, what kind of villa hadn't I lived in? An empty giant house, walking back and forth all alone, where the echoes were louder than life itself. Now a family of 3, squeezed under the cozy top-floor glass dome, drinking tea and stargazing. It was better than any luxury mansion. Seeing both of us shake our heads, Lu Xinrong didn't press further. Immediately coming up with a new idea. All right, if you're not moving houses, then so be it. What about a car? A car. With the business you guys have going on now, you gotta have at least one car, right? When dealing with clients in the future, you can't be picking them up and dropping them off in a truck, can you? He paused and added another sentence. My sister-in-law is technically the fruit beauty now. If she rides the bus out, her fans won't agree to it. That last sentence made Shumeng laugh out loud. She glanced at me, a hint of hesitation in her eyes. I thought about it and nodded. All right, there's an auto show next week. Let's go check it out. Half an hour later, we returned to Wanjiahui. Before the car even came to a complete stop, I sensed something was wrong. A crowd was gathered around the shop entrance. What's the deal here? They weren't buying things. They were just watching the drama unfold. A few men blocked the entrance, hands on their hips puffing on cigarettes. Among the swirling smoke, there was a distinct vibe that they meant bad news. My heart sank. I pushed open the car door, walked over quickly, squeezed through the crowd, and saw the scene inside the shop clearly. The live stream stand was knocked to the ground. The phone screen was shattered. And the fruit crates that were originally neatly arranged, 2 or 3 had been flipped over, oranges rolling all over the floor. A few young girls huddled in the corner, their faces pale as sheets. In the spot where Shumeng usually sat for live streams, there was now a middle-aged man sitting. Crew cut, wearing a thumb-thick gold chain around his neck, legs crossed, clutching 2 collectible walnuts in his hand. Squinting his eyes, he sized me up without getting up. You the boss? I scanned the store, keeping my voice steady. Gentlemen, what's this about? The crew cut guy clicked his tongue, placed the walnuts on the table. Let me introduce myself. The name's Brother Yang Chun Yang. I run a commercial firm, looking to expand recently, and I've taken a liking to your storefront. He stood up, walked in front of me, sizing me up from head to toe. This spot of yours isn't bad. Right by the north gate, plus doing live streams. Business is pretty booming, huh? I didn't reply. He continued, I'll give you a price. 50,000. Take the cash, find another place, and reopen. This storefront is mine. He patted my shoulder. Little brother, give me some face. Move out today. I looked down at the spot he patted, then raised my head. Brother Yang, was it? This storefront isn't for sale. Brother Yang stared at me. Little brother, maybe you didn't hear clearly. I said, give me some face. Are you gonna take this favor or not? I smirked coldly. Just then, the car door behind me opened, and Liu Xinrong strode right over. Who's causing trouble here? Brother Yang turned his head, his eyes narrowing and his face instantly put on a fake smile. Yo, Chairman Liu, what brings you here? Is this tiny shop under your protection? Liu Xinrong walked up to my side, letting out a cold laugh. This whole Wanjiahui area was developed by yours truly. My storefront goes to whoever I want to give it to. He took a step forward. Who the hell do you think you are? Playing gangster on my turf. Brother Yang's face changed several times, his jaw clenching tightly, but in the end, he swallowed his anger. Chairman Liu, look at what you're saying. I just came here to do business. Harmony brings wealth, right? Do business? Liu Xinrong pointed at the live stream stand lying on the floor, and the fruit smashed all over the ground. This is how you do business. Brother Yang gave a forced laugh and didn't respond. He turned to look at me, his eyes cold and sinister. All right, little brother, with Chairman Liu here today, I'll give you face. He walked to the door and turned back around. But you'd better think this through. Can you really be protected by others for a lifetime? With a wave of his hand, those men followed him and disappeared into the crowd. The store quieted down, and a few young girls couldn't hold it in and burst into tears. Shumeng rushed in from outside and threw her arms around me. Are you okay? I'm fine. I patted her back, looking toward the doorway. Liu Xinrong said, Brother, this Liu Yang specifically targets hot storefronts. He's got a bunch of thugs under him. Today he gave me face and left, but he won't just swallow this insult. In the future, I know. Brother Liu, thanks a lot today. I didn't say much else. I squatted down, picking up the scattered oranges one by one, and putting them back into the crate. The next day, the police station suddenly called me. Is this Chen Kuisheng? Sun Jian, the driver from your store, got into a fight with someone and is in the hospital now. I was stunned. A fight? Old son. Yeah, you should come over. Municipal hospital. Shumeng and I rushed over, found the ward, pushed the door open, and saw old son lying on the hospital bed. His head was wrapped in gauze. His eye socket was black and blue, swollen down to a tiny slit. Sitting on the chair beside the bed was a woman, her eyes red, likely his wife. Standing by the window were two police officers, one making notes, the other holding his arms and watching. Boss Chen? Old son saw us and struggled to sit up. I took a few steps over and pressed him back down. Don't move. What happened, though? Old son opened his mouth but couldn't utter a word. Beside him, his wife's tears welled up again, her voice choking up. Boss Chen, my old son, wouldn't cause trouble. He's an honest man. I know. I looked at old son, bro. Take your time and tell me. Old son took a breath and started explaining. Today, as soon as he left, he loaded dragon fruits. The cargo was packed, and right after driving out of the market gate, a group of people suddenly rushed out from the roadside, holding sticks and stones in their hands, and went at the truck without saying a word. Someone climbed up the back, threw down the freshly loaded dragon fruits, smashing them on the ground crate by crate. Old son used to be a soldier. He jumped out of the truck, charged forward, and took down two of them. But there were too many on the other side. No matter how good a fighter he was, he couldn't hold off 7 or 8 guys surrounding him. He took a blow from a stick to the back of his head, and before falling unconscious, he saw people smashing the truck crates and slashing the tires with knives. When he woke up again, he was in the hospital. After old son finished speaking, he clenched his back teeth, his cheeks bulging high. I walked out of the ward together with the 2 police officers. Officer, about this matter, I handed over a cigarette. The older one took it and stuck it in his mouth, unlit. Is that guy from your store a veteran? Yeah, retired from the military, never causes trouble. He nodded. That group ran fast. When we arrived, there was only a pile of ruined fruit left, and the license plate was obscured. The security camera only caught a few back views, and their faces aren't clear. Then what do we do? Officer Lee filed the case as a formality. He glanced at me, but you know, for this kind of case, unless there's a unified crackdown on organized crime, it's really hard to handle. I knew what was up in my mind. Returning to the hospital ward door, Zhumeng was just coming out from inside. She gave old son's wife 8,000, telling old son to recover in peace. The shop's losses were no big deal, and he could come back to work once he got better. During this recovery period, his salary would be paid as usual. Old son's wife chased after her, grabbing Shumeng's hand, too grateful to even speak a word. Walking out of the hospital, main gate, Shumeng asked me what the police said over there. I told her. The case was filed, but catching them wouldn't be easy. She frowned. Then what should we do? Should we ask Liu Xinrong for help? I shook my head. No need to ask him. Official channels have their ways, and the underground has its tricks. Don't worry, I'll take care of this matter. I made a phone call to Gu Weidong. At noon the next day, a black business van parked in front of the store. The driver got off and opened the door, his attitude extremely respectful. Zhumeng watched from a distance. Feeling a bit uneasy, I didn't explain much and just got into the car. The car made several twists and turns before stopping at the entrance of an old alley. The alley was very deep, flanked by old-style residential buildings on both sides, with peeling wall paint. Walking all the way to the inside, there was a noodle shop. The signboard was tiny, and the characters were already faded. Pushing the door open to enter, there were 5 or 6 tables, with only one person sitting at the very back. Gu Weidong was keeping his head down eating noodles. Seeing me walk over, he pointed at the stool beside him. Sit. Wanna eat? I took a look at the noodles in his bowl. The color was dark, and the noodles were uneven in thickness. Nope. He raised his head and glanced at me. You sure are blunt. If it tastes bad, why eat it? He froze for a moment, then laughed. Chen Kuisheng, I don't know if you're confident or self-absorbed. He put down his chopsticks, but you're right. It really tastes bad. However, this stuff saved my life in the past. I quietly listened to him speak. During those special times, my parents passed away from cancer due to overseas connections. My little sister and I had no one to take care of us, and we almost starved to death. An old neighbor secretly brought us a bowl of these noodles every day. He used his chopsticks to poke at the noodles, buckwheat noodles mixed with elm bark powder. Tasted terrible, but it kept the hunger away. Later, when I made it big, I went looking for that old neighbor, only to find he was long gone. He paused for a bit, yet every now and then I still come to eat a bowl of these noodles, to remind myself where I crawled out from. I looked at that bowl of noodles, remaining silent for a few seconds. Brother Gu, pardon my harsh words, but eating good food is the best way to honor the past. He raised his head. Eating cheap junk every day is called not forgetting one's roots. I shook my head. That's called self-dramatizing. If you truly haven't forgotten your roots, You should eat the absolute best, wear the absolute best, and live the absolute best life. So that kid back then, who almost starved to death, can see that we survive and we're living better than anyone else. Gu Weidong stared at me for several seconds. Makes sense. He wiped his mouth, his expression returning to normal. Let's get down to business. That Liu Yong is just a small fry. But behind him stands Lai III from Changjiang Company. Lai III ran with gangs in his early years, and later cleaned up his act to join the District Political Consultative Committee. Gu Weidong said with disdain in his tone. I said, he already went legit, yet he's still this arrogant. He can't help himself. Gu Weidong leaned back against the chair. He's just a blade in someone else's hand. It's not that he wants to be arrogant, it's that if he isn't arrogant, someone will just switch to another blade. I nodded. Then, he hasn't truly gone legit yet. Gu Weidong gave a slight smile. I'll handle this matter for you. Thanks a lot. Don't be so quick to thank me. He looked at me. Next week is my daughter's birthday. We're throwing a small party. Bring your daughter along. I looked at him. Sounds like father-daughter relations are going pretty well. A trace of softness appeared on Gu Weidong's face. Based on your info, after I found Nuanyuan back, I put a lot of effort into accompanying her. Recently, I've pushed aside all outside business and stay home every day to play with her. He paused. She grew up without a dad? Now she has one, but she doesn't have many friends. I want to introduce her to more kids her age. How old is your daughter? 5 years old. My Nuanyuan is 6. They can hit it off just right. He looked at me. Bring your wife and kid over next weekend. I nodded, all right. Returning home, Juming was currently watering the climbing roses on the terrace. I explained the situation to her. When she finished listening, the watering can in her hand stopped in midair. Gu Weidong, is he that friend you mentioned last time? Yeah. Shumeng noticeably grew nervous. Then what is his family like? What should I wear? What should Qiangqian wear? Do we need to prepare a gift? I couldn't help but laugh. Meng, don't be nervous. She took a deep breath. I've just never seen this kind of scene before. That Gu Weidong you mentioned. I've heard you bring him up a few times, and he feels like someone from a prestigious, prominent family. I thought for a moment, counting from their family's old man, they really are a prominent family. Zuming's face turned completely pale. However, I shifted my tone. As for Gu Weidong himself, he's the biggest good-for-nothing in their family. Shares the same bad taste as me, basically just a hoodlum. Zuming glared at me. I wrapped my arm around her shoulder. Don't overthink it. Tomorrow we'll go buy some clothes for you and Qiangqian first, and then hit the auto show to check out some cars. We'll drive a new car there next week, all respectable and presentable. They really are just an ordinary household, slightly behind where we're at now. She was amused into a smile, giving me a light swat. The next day, inside a women's clothing boutique in Ninghai's most upscale shopping center, I picked out an off-white dress for Shu Meng. She took the clothes and went into the fitting room. A few minutes later, the door opened and Shu Meng walked out. I was stunned. The dress fit like a glove, the off-white making her skin look even fairer. Her hair draped down freely, and she lowered her head slightly to look at me. In that instant, I suddenly recalled those celebrities I had seen in my past life. Models and all, but not a single one. Could make my heart leap so violently like this? Does it look good? She asked in a low voice. I didn't answer, just staring right at her. The shopping assistant softly said beside her, Ma'am, this piece of clothing suits you way too well. Juming pursed her lips and smiled, taking a look in the mirror. Then she picked up the price tag, and the smile on her face froze. She turned her head, her eyes carrying panic. Hubby, 6,800. Wrap this one up. I handed the card to the assistant, then pointed at the piece on the rack. That one, and that dress next to it. Bring them all for her to try. Juming grabbed my arm in a hurry, lowering her voice. It's way too expensive. I paid no mind to her, chin tilting towards the shopping assistant. Go get them. The shopping assistant's eyes lit up, quickly stepping toward the rack. A few minutes later, the fitting room door opened again. She came out wearing a navy blue velvet maxi dress, the neckline cut just right, and the waistline tailored exquisitely. I then had her try a light gray knit set, followed by a simple black dress. Every single one looked amazing. It wasn't that the clothes were pretty, it was that she made everything look stunning. Wrap them all up. After swiping the card, she handed the card back with both hands. Sir, ma'am, let me wrap up the clothes for you. Just then, Qiangqian tugged at my hand. Daddy, I need to go to the bathroom. I looked down at her. All right. Daddy will take you. I turned around and said to Shu Meng, wait here. Hold on to our stuff. I'll take Qiangqian to the bathroom and be right back. She nodded. Holding Qiangqian's hand, I walked toward the restroom inside the mall. Only later did I find out that shortly after I left, 2 young girls passed by the store entrance. One of them casually glanced inside and suddenly halted her steps. Sis. Zhu Ming turned around, surprised to see who it was. Xiao Yu. This girl was none other than Shu Meng's cousin Lu Xiaoyue. Lu Xiaoyue rushed in with a few steps, sizing her up top to bottom. Sis, it really is you. I thought I was seeing things. Zhu Meng smiled. Why are you here? I made plans to grab food with a classmate. Lu Xiaoyue's eyes landed on her. On that dress she hadn't had time to change out of yet. Sis, Are you buying clothes here? Feeling a bit uncomfortable, Shumeng pulled slightly at her hem. No, just browsing casually. The other girl beside her also walked in, looking at Shumeng with curiosity. Lu Xiaoyue snapped out of it. Oh, this is my cousin Sis. This is my classmate. We're going to grab food together. Hello? Shumeng nodded at the girl. Sis? Then we'll head upstairs first. I'll call you later. Lu Xiaoyue pulled her classmate and walked outside. Stepping out of the shop and turning the corner, that classmate immediately grabbed Lu Xiaoyue. Xiaoyue, your cousin is so loaded. Lu Xiaoyue froze. Loaded? I don't think so. Any piece of clothing in that store easily costs thousands. The classmate glanced back. I just saw a stack of clothes piled up at the checkout counter. Did she buy all of those? For real. Lu Xiaoyue slowed down her steps. Hearing that my wife bumped into her cousins, I didn't take it to heart. 2 days later, we went to check out the auto show. Clear goal, a business van. Zumeng had already set expectations on the way. Hubby, let's not buy anything too expensive. 1 or 200,000 is more than enough. I nodded. It didn't matter to me. In my past life, what luxury car hadn't I driven? To me, a car is just a tool. Entering the hall, we walked along with the crowd. Passing by the Volkswagen booth, Qianqian suddenly stopped dead in her tracks. Daddy, look! She pointed at a car super excited. A Beetle in a retro style. Baby pink, among a sea of cold metal machines. It looks like a fairy tale barging in. So cute. Qianqian tugged at my hand. This car suits mommy, and it suits me too. I looked down at her. Do you like it? The little girl nodded frantically. I looked toward Shumeng. She didn't say anything, just looking at that car, her eyes exceptionally soft. Then she asked me in a low voice, how much is this car? I knew that look all too well, clearly liking it yet fearing it's too expensive, secretly doing the math in her head. I waved and called over a sales assistant. Hello, sir. This high-end version of the Beetle has a MSRP of just over 300,000. There's a discount during the auto show. Zumeng lightly tugged at my sleeve. Hubby, it's way too expensive. I ignored her, asking the sales rep, do you have full cash ready stock? Yes, sir. You can drive this floor model straight home. Zumeng's hand tugging my sleeve tightened a bit. Hubby, I turned on head to look at her. It's rare that both you and the kid like it. She froze for a moment, speechless. The sales rep watched from the side, eyes filled with envy. Then how do you meet clients with this kind of car? She finally found an excuse. You can't exactly pick up people driving a Beetle, right? Then we'll just buy another business van. I said as a matter of fact. I'll drive the business van to pick up clients. This car is the ride for you and Qianqian. She looked at me, her eyes a bit red. I said, how about this? I've decided on the car for you and Qianqian. You go pick out my business van. Price range and brand are all up to you, deal. She nodded gently, holding Qianqian's hand and walking toward other booths. I stayed on this side to process the paperwork. Half an hour later, the paperwork was complete. Just as I was about to go look for them, my phone rang. Zumeng's voice was noticeably wrong. Hubby, where are you? Come over quick. Booth 6. What's wrong? They pushed Qianqian. Come over quick. The last few words carried anger and anxiety. I hung up the phone and rushed over immediately. By the time I arrived, a crowd had already formed around them. Squeezing in, I saw Shumeng half squatting, hugging Qianqian tightly, glaring at the opposing side, her face red with anger. Qianqian was in her arms, her shoulders trembling back and forth. Standing opposite was a woman, in her 30s, wearing a black suit, with a work badge pinned to her chest, the booth manager. Her arms were crossed over her chest, with a few security guards standing beside her. What happened? I walked over. Seeing me arrive, Shumeng passed the kid right into my arms, turned around, and charged straight up. Why did you push my kid? She's 4 years old. Are you 4 years old too? That woman let out a snort. Ma'am, please mind your temper. First, this is our booth, and we have the right to protect the exhibit. Second, the barricade is right there, and your daughter crawled in on her own. Third, she held up 3 fingers and waved them. I only blocked her gently. She fell because she couldn't stand firm herself. What does that have to do with me? Yelling and making a scene like this affects our booth's image. I can call security to escort you out. You... What about me? That woman interrupted her. If you feel wronged, you can go file a complaint. Booth 6, my name is Lina. Awaiting you anytime. Though I must remind you, we've seen plenty of complaints like this. As she spoke, her gaze swept across Shumeng's face, then fell upon Qianqian in my arms, giving a light chuckle. Kids getting bumped around is completely normal. Just go back and coax her and it'll be fine. No need to make a scene here. If you want to pull the scam, we have a legal team. She adjusted her suit, her tone filled with arrogance. Besides, we are a high-end booth, serving high-net-worth clients. With different asset levels, the service value enjoyed is naturally different. If your assets reach the standard, she leaned forward slightly, getting a bit closer, lowering her voice, but ensuring everyone around could hear. I could even kneel down and lick your shoes. The question is, are you worthy? Listening to Shumeng's words, I pretty much understood what happened. Our daughter saw that big off-road vehicle and thought it suited her dad, wanting to go up and take a look. The barricade was set at an adult height, so the red velvet rope was right above Qianqian's head, and she didn't notice it at all. Then, that woman named Lin Na shoved Chiang Qian right over. I stepped forward and pulled Shumeng over, putting Chiang Qian back in her arms. I looked at Lin Na, my tone calm. Manager Lin, was it? Just now, you said different net worths enjoy different services. I think that statement makes sense. The corner of Lin Na's mouth twitched, thinking I was about to back down. I paid no mind to her, turning my head to look at the booth, at those few at-a-loss staff members inside. 5 cars were parked side by side at the booth. Just now, Lin Na said one was already reserved, so the remaining 4 were still available. I pointed my finger at those 4. I want all 4 of these. What? Lin Na froze for a second, and those staff members were stunned too. I repeated myself, 4 vehicles. Full cash payment right up the order. Nobody moved. I looked at them. What, suspecting I don't have the cash? I pulled out my bank card from my pocket, placing it down on the counter beside us, then pulled out the bank receipt from the Volkswagen booth after swiping for the Beetle, slapping it down on the table with a smack. This is the receipt from swiping over at Volkswagen. You guys can have a look. A young girl with a ponytail hesitated for a second, walking over and picking up the receipt. She took a glance, her eyes widening instantly. She subconsciously covered her mouth, then looked up at me, her gaze completely transformed. Zhumeng didn't have time to be angry anymore, quickly walking over to pull my arm. Hubby, are you really buying? Even if you buy, don't buy from their brand. I pulled her down to sit, patting the back of her hand. Listen to me. When the paperwork was almost processed, I suddenly bent over, taking off one of the high heels on Shumeng's foot and tossed it right in front of Lin Na. Lin Na stared at that shoe on the ground, her face instantly flushing the color of pork liver. Manager Lin, I wonder if I'm high net worth enough to meet your client service standards. I asked her, her lips trembling, unable to speak a word. More and more onlookers gathered around. Some were whispering in hushed tones, while others held up their phones to film. Seeing her stay silent, I shook my head. Looks like your company's service promises aren't quite up to par. I turned around and said to the ponytail girl, who was processing the purchase for me, cancel these 4 cars. I'm refunding. The girl was stunned. Sir, this... Lin Na's face went completely pale. During the auto show, to push sales conversions, the first 2 days promised unconditional deposit refunds. And even in the later days, refunds only deducted a small fee. It's just that normal people wouldn't pull this, who in their right mind buys just to refund and rebuy. But right now, this policy became her death sentence. Just then, a familiar voice came from behind the crowd. Brother, what are you doing here? Liu Xinrong parted the crowd and strode right in. I turned to look at him. Brother Liu, how come you're here too? I came to check out cars. He walked up beside me, took a look at the shoe on the ground, and then looked at Lin Na frozen in place. What happened here? I explained briefly in a few words. After hearing it, Liu Xinrong's expression darkened. He turned his head to look at those few cars, his gaze landing on the off-road vehicle, freezing for a second. This one? He pulled out his phone, browsed through it, and passed it over in front of me. Is it this one? On the screen was a photo, which was indeed this off-road vehicle. Even the angle was identical. Brother, this is the exact one I ordered. You ordered it? Yeah. Was planning to give it to you as a gift. He pointed at the car. Last time you said you weren't changing houses, so I thought about getting you a better car. I pulled some strings to get this car, delivering tomorrow. He turned his head to look at Lin Na, his gaze turning cold. You pushed the kid. Lin Na's face completely lost all color. Chairman Liu, I didn't know. Liu Xinrong ignored her, waving his hand. Cancel it. We don't want this car anymore. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Hello, old Zhang? That dark green off-roader at booth 6 I ordered. Cancel that one. Yeah, cancel it right now. Lin Na completely froze in place. Very soon, a middle-aged man in a suit hurried over, forehead covered in sweat. Chairman Liu, what happened? Liu Xinrong said, General Manager Zheng. Your manager here sure is impressive. My little niece just wanted to look at a car and was pushed over by her. General Manager Zheng's face turned completely green, turning to look at Lin Na. That looked like he wanted to devour her alive. Lin Na opened her mouth. General Manager Zheng, Starting right now, you're no longer an employee of this company. Lin Na's legs went weak, collapsing onto the floor. Leaving booth 6, that little unpleasantness was quickly thrown behind my head. Liu Xinrong accompanied us by our side, chatting all the way as we walked. Walking to the rest area, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. Brother, when all's said and done, what happened just now started because of me. Today, I must give you guys a car. Don't argue with me. I froze for a second. Brother Liu, really no need. If you don't accept it, you're looking down on me. His attitude was firm. Turning to look at Shumeng's sister-in-law. You tell him, your husband isn't giving me face, so you have to give me this face, right? Yumeng was caught off guard by being called out so suddenly. She took a glance at me, and I nodded slightly. We originally wanted to buy a business van, around 200,000 or so. 200,000, Liu Xinrong's eyes lit up. That's simple. Leave it to me. I know business vans best. Guaranteed to pick one you're satisfied with. He turned and left right after speaking, taking 2 steps before looking back. What are you standing there for? Let's go. Zhumeng and I exchanged a glance, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, having no choice but to carry Chiang Qian and follow along. Liu Xinrong. Knowing the way like the back of his hand led us straight to the Mercedes booth. In the center of the booth, parked a streamlined silver business van with a long-legged booth model standing beside it, currently posing for photos. Liu Xinrong walked over, without even giving that model a single glance, pointing directly at the vehicle, just this one, then waving at a staff member, come right up the order. That long-legged booth model was visibly stunned, her movements halting completely. A staff member jogged over to greet him. Hello, sir. Are you sure you want this one? Sure, Liu Xinrong grunted in response, turning around to start lobbying Xu Meng, sister-in-law. You listen to me and you won't go wrong. This one definitely satisfies your needs. Mercedes is a big brand, gives you face when driving out. Business vans have tons of space, perfect for picking up clients or taking the family out in the future. He laid it out in a clear, convincing way. I took a glance at that car, then looked at the sign on the booth, unable to hold back a smile. Brother Liu, do you know how much this car costs? He blinked his eyes. 200,000? Sister-in-law just said, this is a Mercedes AMG. I pointed at the emblem. It's not 200,000. It's around 2 million. Liu Xinrong's expression froze for a second. Xu Ming was startled. 2 million? That's way too expensive. No. Brother Liu, this is way too valuable. We can't accept this. Liu Xinrong recovered quickly, starting to play dumb. Didn't you say 2 million? Must have misheard. Seeing that neither of us was talking, he simply went full rogue. Fine. I admit I did it on purpose. But a 200,000 gift is too weak for me to give. If I'm giving a gift, it's gotta be this. If you guys don't accept it, I'm just gonna camp right here today and not leave. As he spoke, he sat down right beside us. Looking at his shameless act, I suddenly laughed. Liu Xinrong made a bag off my insider info, but he was never the stingy type who only took without giving back. Instead, he was always thinking of ways to pay it forward. This guy's a real one. I glanced at Xu Meng, who was still politely declining over there. I walked over and patted her shoulder. Just take it. She looked up at me, a bit surprised. I nodded. Seeing me nod, Liu Xinrong instantly bounced up from his chair, as if terrified I'd take it back, waving directly at the staff member. Write up the order. Full cash payment right now. Over the weekend, driving that Mercedes AMG, I took Xu Meng and Qianqian to attend Gu Weidong's daughter's birthday party. The villa area was very quiet, and Gu Weidong was waiting at the door himself. Seeing us get out of the car, he strode over to greet us. Brother Chen, sister-in-law, please come in. He pulled a little girl wearing a white princess dress to his side. Nuan say hi to uncle and auntie. The little girl looked delicate and pretty, but her gaze was a bit timid, calling out shyly, hello uncle, hello auntie. Before we even had time to introduce them, Qianqian's eyes suddenly lit up. She took the initiative to walk over, grabbing Nuanwan's hand. Is your name Nuanwan? My name is Qianqian. Let's go play. The two little girls held hands, whispering about something, and ran off into the courtyard. Nuanwan was stunned for a moment, looking toward Gu Weidong. Gu Weidong smiled and nodded, and only then did she soft mumble an okay. Xu Ming's expression beside me felt a bit unnatural, saying to me softly, Qianqian, how can this kid be so pushy? I laughed. It's pretty good. Getting more and more outgoing. Low-key social butterfly potential. Gu Weidong, however, clapped his hands in delight. That's awesome. That's just awesome. Ever since Nuan was brought back, I felt like this kid was way too introverted, always staying by herself, and not liking to play with others. Now that she can play together with a girl her age, that's just awesome. Hearing this, a hint of confusion flashed in Xu Meng's eyes. She took a glance at me. I just gave a faint smile. Not prying further, this was someone else's private business. Gu Weidong was very perceptive, taking the initiative to bring it up. Brother Chen knows about my situation. The child has been brought back, but her mother still refuses to forgive me right now. I nodded, comforting him. Take it slow. Some things can't be rushed. When the time is right, it'll naturally fall into place. Hearing this, he visibly got excited. Brother, with your word, my heart is at ease. Xu Meng watched this scene from the side, a trace of surprise flashing in her eyes. She didn't expect such a successful guy would actually listen to me this much. I'll go check on the kids, she said, walking toward the courtyard. Gu Weidong took the opportunity to hold onto me. Brother, let's go sit in the study. The study was on the second floor. Pushing open the door to walk in, I froze for a moment. Inside sat an old man with graying hair, holding a teacup and unhurriedly sipping tea. Elder Gu Weidong was a bit embarrassed. Mainly my dad wanted to meet you, fearing you wouldn't come if asked, so he didn't mention it to you beforehand. I stepped forward to greet the old man. Elder Gu set down his teacup and stood up, nodding at me. Little friend Chen, please sit. He personally poured me a cup of tea and handed it over with both hands. Little friend Chen helped me find my granddaughter. As an old man, I must present a cup of tea no matter what, to express my gratitude to you. I took it with both hands. Elder Gu, you're being way too polite. It's not like I didn't ask for anything when looking for Brother Gu either. Elder Gu nodded. I know it was for your daughter, right? He pointed at Gu Weidong. Isn't he doing it for his daughter too? It's a great win-win for both sides. He paused, looking at me with bright, sharp eyes. Of course. My meeting with little friend Chen as an old man? isn't without a request of my own either. Hearing this, I instantly understood, setting down my teacup. Elder Gu, please go ahead. He slowly spoke. I heard from Chenzi that little friend Chen is extremely versed in predicting good and bad fortune. So I would also like to ask little friend to do a reading for this old man. Since Elder Gu wanted a reading, there was no way for me to refuse. Regarding the Gu family affairs, I actually knew a thing or two. The Gu family was different from other top domestic clans. Their main power lay overseas. Back when the domestic economy opened up, foreign capital and tech were urgently needed. Elder Gu seized the opportunity to import them on a massive scale, combined with his study abroad days, where he built connections with some founding elders, allowing the Gu family to gradually step onto the domestic scene, expanding their domain into political spheres as well. This kind of background had both pros and cons. On one hand, it was hard to truly blend in, making them easy targets to be seen as outsiders. On the other hand, they gained a prestigious, untainted status, having no real bad blood with any faction. When other clans expanded their interests overseas, they also needed the Gu family's backing, so everyone would give the old man some face. But there was one particular incident that made the Gu family offend a top-tier domestic clan. Back then, the Gu family donated a batch of cultural relics to a museum. A few years later, one of the items suddenly popped up in an auction market. The old man thought the museum had engaged in insider theft, getting furious beyond belief, insisting on holding them accountable. But what he didn't expect was that the relic had been borrowed by a senior veteran comrade. Pursuing it meant offending a heavy hitter. As a result, Gu Weidong's older brother, Gu Weihang's career trajectory hit a wall and stalled. After running through this past history in my head, I looked at Elder Gu, nodding. Elder Gu, what would you like to read? Read fortune and misfortune. He paused. The future fortune of the Gu family. I pondered for a moment. Then please write down a word, Elder Gu. He raised a brush and wrote down the character Ding on paper. I took a look at that character, then looked back at the old man, having a clear idea in mind. Some things shouldn't be said outright, but a subtle hint works wonders. I picked up the brush and wrote a poem right beside it. 20 mounds of dust and sand by the golden well. Why return to the vessel to stir up worry-free life? Floating clouds blocking the sun will eventually part. Just watch the river waters flow endlessly east. Elder Gu looked at this poem, frowning slightly. He raised his eyes to look at me, a flash of disappointment passing through his eyes, though he quickly masked it, giving a faint nod. Many thanks, little friend Chen. He folded up the slip of paper and said to Gu Weidong, prepare a thank you gift, and thank little friend Chen on my behalf. I stood up, waving my hand. Elder Gu, you're far too generous. No need for a gift. It was just a single character after all, and not worth it. After saying this, I turned around to take my leave. Walking out of the study, I knew very well in my heart that the old man probably thought I was putting on a facade, acting like a know-it-all. When it comes to certain things, giving a subtle hint is enough. Waking up in the morning, Zhu Meng went to the fruit supermarket at Wanjiahui first, while I was responsible for dropping Qiangqian off at kindergarten. As a result, not long after she got there, a call came through. Hubby, come over quick. The shop is surrounded again. Hurriedly dropping Qiangqian off at the neighboring kindergarten, I pulled a U-turn and rushed toward Wanjiahui. When I arrived, I realized something wasn't quite right. A huge crowd had gathered around the entrance of the fruit shop, packed 3 layers deep inside and out. I squeezed my way in to take a look. Dumbfounded, I saw a group kneeling at the entrance of my shop. We were wrong. Leading them was that exact guy Yang Ge, who just a week ago was acting all arrogant and domineering in the shop, now kneeling straight as a rod at the shop entrance, his head hanging low, his face covered in black and blue bruises. Behind him knelt 4 or 5 of his henchmen, every single one black and blue, with 2 of them even having their arms held up in bandages. This row of people was kowtowing all at once, thumping their foreheads against the floor tiles, not holding back one bit. 2 people were standing by the side, Gu Weidong's driver, plus that bodyguard, arms crossed expressionlessly, keeping watch over them. The crowd of onlookers went completely wild. Isn't that Yang Ge? Why is he kneeling here? What's the background of this fruit shop's boss lady? Even Yang Ge is kneeling for her. No idea. Looks like a pretty young woman. Who knew she was such a tough nut to crack? I didn't have time to listen to them gossip, hurrying inside the shop. Zhu Meng was sitting behind the cash register, with no real expression on her face, just sitting right there. But I knew her all too well. Her hand was gripping the cup so tightly her knuckles turned white. I walked over and held her hand, ice cold. She looked up at me, her eyes turning red in an instant. Hubby, as soon as I opened the doors, they knelt right here. Scared the life out of me. I was a bit speechless. Everyone thinks you're a ruthless boss. Turns out you were scared out of your mind inside the shop. I patted the back of her hand, turning around to walk out and find that driver. What's going on? The driver's attitude was very respectful. Mr. Chen, it's the boss's orders, making these guys kowtow and admit their wrongs, until you and madam are satisfied. How many times have they kowtowed? Lost count. If you're not satisfied, they keep kowtowing. I nodded, walking over in front of Yang Ge and crouching down. Yang Ji looked up at me, his face dripping with sweat, the skin on his forehead scraped open, blood mixing with sweat as it ran down. Yang Ge, we meet again. I looked at him. You were the one who ordered the truck smashed, right? Your guys threw the dragon fruits, right? And the driver was beaten by your men too. Tell me, how should we settle this? How about leaving a hand behind? His face turned instantly pale as a sheet. Thump thump, he started kowtowing again. Big bro, I was wrong. I was blind not to recognize a giant like you. I'll compensate. I'll compensate for everything. Compensate with money. Yes, yes, yes. The truck, the fruit, the medical bills all paid double. Triple works too. I waved my hand. No need to compensate with money. In Wanjiahui, are there any other merchants you collect protection fees from? He opened his mouth. Is there or isn't there? There is. Refund it all? From now on, your people aren't allowed back into this market. Got that clear? He nodded frantically. Got it, got it. I'll refund it right now. If my men ever dare step foot into Wanjiahui again, I'll chop off my own hand. I stood up, not giving him another glance. Suddenly, a burst of cheers erupted from the crowd around us. Did you hear that? No more protection fees from now on. The boss lady is so righteous. She chased these bastards out for us. More than just righteous, that was straight up badass. Youngji has been acting like a tyrant for years. Who dared mess with him? From now on, I'm buying all my fruit strictly from this boss lady. Hearing this, I was stunned for a moment. Clearly, I was the one who negotiated this right here. I was the one who made Youngji refund the money. And I was the one who chased them out? How come every single one of these people is thanking the boss lady? I looked back at Shumeng. She was still sitting behind the cash register, the shock on her face having not completely faded yet. Alright then, if it's the boss lady, so be it. At the end of the day, the boss lady still has to sleep with the boss tonight anyway. Regarding Youngji's matter, Gu Weidong settled it so quickly, so I decided to give him another hint. The call went through, and I thanked him first. Brother Gu, thanks for the Liu Yang thing. A small matter, Gu Weidong said, gave a head up over to Lai the Third's side. He wouldn't dare move again. Got it. I paused. By the way, about that word your dad asked me to read last time, I didn't elaborate back then. Since it involves cultural relics, it wasn't good for me to say too much, lest I reveal heavenly secrets. However, peace of mind is a blessing, and some things shouldn't be dwelled on too much. Gu Weidong went silent for 2 seconds. I understand. I'll talk to my dad. Hanging up the phone. Having said things to this extent, it was enough. Whatever choice their Gu family makes after this is none of my business. At noon inside the shop, the few of us gathered around a small table eating bento boxes. Lo Dian was shoveling food while scrolling on her phone. Suddenly gasping, my area is getting demolished. This girl was hired to help Shu Meng with live streaming. A Ninghai locale, a media major with a lively personality, chattering all day long. What demolition? Here, news push notification. She passed her phone over, and I took it to take a look. The headline was huge. Southwest Old Town renovation project launched. Binjiang Business District expansion. The content was identical to what I said at Liu Xinrong's dinner table last time. Old Town demolition and Binjiang expansion hitting the nail on the head for both. I handed the phone back to her and continued eating. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Shumeng looking at me. She didn't speak, but I understood that gaze. She also remembered what happened that day. Meeting her gaze, I winked at her. She froze for a moment, then pursed her lips into a smile, lowering her head to keep eating. Right at this moment, the sound of a sudden screeching brake came from the shop entrance. A black Benz parked directly at the entrance. The car door popped open, and Liu Xinrong almost leaped out of the car. Brother. He strode inside with large steps, sweat still dripping from his forehead. Brother Liu, what's wrong? You've got to help me this time. He plopped down opposite me. That planning for the Southwest District, did you see the news? Just saw it hit every single mark. He slammed the table. Everything you said that day was spot on. The new mayor took office, and his very first move was set right on the Old Town renovation and Binjiang expansion. He took a deep breath. Brother, I'm under immense pressure right now. I knocked on the table. You hit the jackpot and you're still under pressure. It's precisely because I hit the jackpot that the pressure is huge. He rubbed his hands together anxiously. Vision Group is super hot right now. But Old Town renovation, how can that be an easy job? Relocation settlements, historical relics, local merchants. If any single step slips up, the people keeping their eyes on me could devour me alive. He lowered his voice. A while ago, I used other land plots to take over from a few companies, swapped for a ton of land in the Southwest District. Back then, they laughed at me for being stupid. Now, every single one of them is drooling with green envy, just waiting to see me screw up. I listened without taking the bait. Mayor Wen has already reached out to me. Liu Xinrong continued. Mayor Wen asked me for a specific plan, and I said I'd present something to his satisfaction as soon as possible. He leaned his body forward. Brother, this time you have to help me no matter what. I tapped the table. Brother Liu, your company has so many top executives. There's no shortage of capable people. This kind of thing requires mobilizing the entire company's resources. It's not convenient for an outsider like me to butt in. What's so inconvenient about it? You come join our company. As CEO, how's a 10 million annual salary sound? I shook my head. I'm a guy who's used to freedom. I can't handle being a CEO. Then how about this? His brain spun at lightning speed. You serve as our company's executive director, acting with CEO duties. Once this whole Southwest District mess is wrapped up, brother, you're free to come and go. I definitely won't stop you. I laughed. I don't even hold any equity in your company. What kind of executive director? Stock-wise, he chuckled slyly. Over at Wanjiahui, I bought up a lot of shares a while ago. I'll transfer all of it to you. Then you take those shares and do an equity swap with my Vision Group. Won't that solve it? I was slightly taken aback. This condition was pretty interesting. If I got Wanjiahui's shares, I wouldn't just be a tenant merchant here. I'd be a shareholder of the whole market. The difference between those two was huge. I thought about it for a moment, holding up two fingers. Two conditions. First, Wanjiahui's shares will be calculated as they should be. Bought out completely at market value. I appreciate your favor, but the money can't be a cent short. He opened his mouth to say something, but I raised my hand to stop him. Second, I looked him dead in the eye. I want total sole control over the Southwest District planning. I set the proposals. I pick the team. I handle the workflow. Everyone in Vision Group, top to bottom, including you, Brother Liu, has to listen to my call. Liu Xinrong froze for a second, and then he burst out laughing hearty and free. Deal. He extended his hand. Brother, it's a deal then. 3 days later, all equity swap procedures were completed. 4 days later, at the extraordinary general meeting, Zhu Ming and I officially became new shareholders of Vision Group. Although her share percentage wasn't big, a shareholder is still a shareholder. Before heading out in the morning, she stood in front of the mirror for nearly 20 minutes. A navy blue business suit, hair pinned up nicely, revealing her fair neck. I was stunned for a moment. It was my first time seeing her dressed like this. A total high-powered career woman. The shareholders meeting wrapped up quickly, and I became the CEO. Zhu Meng sat in the back row, quietly watching the management team the whole time. Time to go meet the team. As Liu Xinrong spoke, he was about to pull Zhu Meng along. Sister-in-law, you're a shareholder now too. Come listen in together. Zhu Meng looked at me, an expectant look in her eyes. I nodded. Let's listen in together. The executive meeting room was packed with high-level bosses. Familiar faces gave acknowledging nods, while unfamiliar ones carried judgment and disdain. Especially on the left, a man in his 50s with a square jaw sitting there, his gaze laced with hostility. Liu Xinrong whispered, General Manager Wu Kuanyuan, with you here, his power gets nerfed. After Liu Xinrong announced the appointment, he raised his voice. From now on, if my opinion conflicts with President Chen's word is final. An instant uproar broke out below, and Wu Kuanyuan's mouth turned into a scowl. I stood up and briefly introduced myself. The applause sparse and cold. Wu Kuanyuan didn't budge. Just as I was about to sit down, he opened his mouth. President Chen isn't even 30 yet. Becoming CEO at this age. There's no precedent for this in Vision's history, right? Someone beside him chimed in. Undergraduate degree, no professional background. The real estate industry has high entry barriers. Can President Chen handle it? I didn't answer. Top executive wearing glasses chimed in. The Southwest District project involves demolition and renovation. The plan has been revised through several hundred pages. Is President Chen confident he can take the reins? At this moment, Wu Kuanyuan stood up, staring right at me. I have one specific question. The Southwest District renovation has 3 late Qing to early Republic historical buildings that must be protected. During construction, underground pipeline renovation, and foundation excavation. The slightest mishap will cause land subsidence and collapse. We've studied this for a month. Does President Chen have a solution? Everyone in the meeting room turned their eyes to me. Zhu Meng's fingers subtly clenched tight. She could tell this was a deliberate test of authority. If I couldn't explain the logic behind it, no one sitting here would back me up. I looked down at the blueprints, the 3 historical building locations clearly marked, with surrounding pipelines and foundations fully detailed. Wu Kuanyuan had indeed put in the work. I raised my head, giving a faint smile. Time to let Zhu Meng see what her husband is made of. General Manager Wu asked a good question. I set the blueprints back on the table, but before answering, let me ask you a question first. The plan has been revised to the 6th draft with a 30 million budget to build a diaphragm wall. Wu Kuanyuan froze for half a second, correct? Around 30 million? I shifted my tone. Then do you know this plan has a fatal flaw? His expression changed slightly. What flaw? I pushed the blueprints forward a bit. The foundations of late Qing and early Republic. Historical buildings are shallow at most 2 meters deep. Your diaphragm wall goes down 12 meters underground, drilling straight through the foundation layer. Once pierced, the underground water veins will shift, causing soil erosion beneath the foundation. This isn't protection. It's accelerated destruction. Wu Kuanyuan's face paled. People in the meeting room began whispering among themselves. I leaned back into my chair, my voice unhurried. That's the first issue. The second issue, the 3 companies mentioned in the plan: Tiangong Construction, Hongda Geotechnics, and Yangchang Piping. I picked up the documents and flipped through 2 pages. Tiangong's legal rep is named Wu. He's your cousin. One of Hongda's shareholders is your nephew. Yangchang Piping was established less than half a year ago, and its sole partner is Vision, with all signed contracts belonging to the Southwest District's preliminary engineering. The meeting room fell completely silent. Everyone's eyes shifted toward Wu Kuanyuan. His face turned pale bit by bit. You're spouting utter slander. He stood up abruptly. Normal business cooperation. My cousin has been doing construction for over a decade. Why shouldn't he be allowed to bid? I looked at him without saying a word, waiting until he finished shouting before slowly speaking, General Manager Wu. I haven't even said they have issues yet. Why are you getting so worked up? He choked on his words. I turned to look at CFO Director Lee. Please bring over the financial reports of these 3 companies from the past 2 years. Lu Xinrong nodded. Go get them. 3 financial reports were placed before me. I picked them up without opening them, just holding them in my hand while staring at Wu Quanyuan. General Manager Wu, you've been at Vision for 17 years. I'll give you 2 choices. First, you resign right now, and I'll pretend nothing ever happened, leaving these financial reports unopened. Second, I open the financial reports, and from then on, you won't be dealing with me. You'll be facing legal proceedings. The meeting room went dead silent. Everyone was waiting. He stood right there, both hands propped on the tabletop. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Slowly lowering his head, I resigned. I set the financial reports down. Safe travels, General Manager Wu. Scanning the room. No one dared to meet my eyes anymore. Let's continue the meeting. The new official's first display of power. I burned Wu Quanyuan down. That very day, the news spread throughout all of Vision. The effect was immediate and clear. Over the next few days, policy implementation went ridiculously smooth. Every department maxed out their cooperation, giving data when asked for data, giving people when asked for people. Nobody dared to stall or act careless. I led the team working non-stop around the clock for a week, finally producing the results. The afternoon the plan took shape. I called the whole team together and went over it from start to finish. When I finished speaking, the meeting room went quiet for a few seconds. Not knowing who clapped first, the applause grew louder and louder, joining into a solid roar. I scanned those bloodshot faces, smiled, go back and get some sleep. Team dinner tomorrow. Nobody moved. An engineer rubbed his hands together. President Chen, could you go over the underground corridor layout one more time? I didn't quite get it, but it felt incredibly OP. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. These guys worked themselves stupid. But I knew that from this day on, everyone at Vision was genuinely sold on me. I took the plan over to Liu Xinrong. He flipped through a few pages and stood up straight. Awesome, brother. Too awesome if this project gets done. My life will be totally worth it. He paces around the office in excitement. After 2 laps, he suddenly stopped, the excitement on his face fading into worry. But just speaking directly, he rubbed his hands and sat down. First issue. Can the city pass this? Mayor Wen just took office. I'm afraid he doesn't have the guts. I smiled. We'll do some convincing. If it really comes down to it, I'll go with you when the time comes. Liu Xinrong's face softened a bit, then his brow furrowed again. Second, it cost way too much. The budget is 3 times the original, which definitely requires massive loans. What if I interrupted him? The budget goes up, and so do the profits. Long-term profits will be 6 to 8 times the original. I know that. He gave a bitter smile, but what about the upfront investment? On the bank side, no banks needed. He was stunned. What phase 1's starting capital is over 100 million. You don't lack even this little bit of cash, right? Lu Xinrong thought he misheard. Over 100 million, looking at your planning. Without 800 million, it won't even start. I smiled faintly. I'll let you witness later what a real capital operation actually looks like. In the afternoon, in the government's small conference room, Mayor Wen sat with the heads of Housing and Urban Development, Planning Bureau, and Finance Bureau to listen to the report. Liu Xinrong sat beside me, slightly nervous. Let's begin. Mayor Wen nodded. I opened the presentation and spoke in one breath for 40 minutes. By the 20-minute mark, the pen in Mayor Wen's hand had already stopped moving. He leaned back in his chair, staring straight at the projection, and then staring at me without blinking once. Several bureau directors began exchanging glances, shocked, incredulous, along with a trace of confusion over just who the hell this guy was. When I finished speaking, I pressed the slide button. The room became so quiet you could hear a pin drop, silent for a full 5 seconds. Mayor Wen picked up his teacup. Everyone feel free to ask any questions you have. Director Zhou spoke first. Digging down 3 underground levels in the old city area. How will the surrounding old buildings be protected? What if the construction causes land subsidence? I opened the corresponding page. It's not full-scale excavation, but a point-based layout. Commercial parking and the main corridors are handled separately, connecting to the surface with microshield tunneling technology. The building foundations will be reinforced in advance with 12 settlement monitoring points placed under each old building, uploading data in real time. Director Wu pushed up his glasses. And for the expansion's 7 functional sectors, what is the basis for the business ecosystem layout? Will there be overlapping construction? I smiled softly. The positioning is completely different. Then, I covered the positioning and strategy of all 7 sectors in one breath. Director Wu had nothing left to say. Finally, Finance Bureau Director Zheng opened his notebook. I have just one question. How much does the city's treasury have to pay out? And how much guarantee is needed? I offered a subtle smile. Director Zheng, this money doesn't need to come from the city. Not only does it not require city funds, it will even generate revenue for the city treasury. Director Zheng's eyes instantly lit up. Mayor Wen put down his pen. I'll ask one question. Large-scale demolition is historically the hardest nut to crack. How do you guarantee it can be completed on time, without any accidents? I looked right at him, and after a few seconds I spoke up. Mayor Wen, at the beginning, we don't need demolition. Mayor Wen froze. No need for demolition. Right. No demolition. Everyone in the conference room was utterly stunned. Liu Xinrong looked at me with an expression of shock and horror, desperately winking at me. Mayor Wen stared at me, President Chen. Old city renovation without demolition. How do you pull that off? Maozi. I smiled. Property swap. Director Zhou frowned. Property swap. I chuckled and explained, just flip the order. Do the Binjiang expansion first, and the old city renovation after. Break ground on the Binjiang new area first, building residential areas, commercial spaces, and office buildings all to high standards. Once completed, the city introduces a policy, municipal, government, civil servants, along with residents and merchants in the southwest Old Town, get priority property swap benefits. I paused. The order of the swap will be decided by lottery. Those drawn can trade their old property for a new one, paying the price difference based on square footage. The difference will be calculated at cost price, far below market value. The conference room fell silent for a few seconds. Director Wu's eyes widened. You mean having them move out voluntarily? Right, I nodded. It's not us demolishing. It's them wanting to swap on their own. What are the conditions in the old city? And what are the conditions in the Binjiang new area? New homes, a new environment, new amenities. And the price difference isn't even high. If it were, would you swap or not? Director Zheng asked, then what about those unwilling to swap? Once those who are willing leave, the remaining ones will naturally be easier to talk to. I smiled. With fewer people, their demands become simple. Negotiating demolition then drops in difficulty by 80%. Director Zhou's mouth hung open, taking half a day to squeeze out a line. Then what about the civil servants? They enjoy it too, right? With civil servants taking the lead, the common folks will see it and feel motivated. The first batch to swap properties will definitely be them. After I finished, I scanned the room, and nobody spoke. Everyone stared with wide eyes, looking at me like I was a complete monster. I understood the subtext in their eyes. You can actually play the game like this. Mayor Wen stood up. We'll study the proposal and reply as soon as possible. He walked us downstairs, escorting us all the way to the car. Before getting into the car, he reached out and shook my hand again, raising his other hand to give my shoulder 2 heavy pats. He didn't speak, but I understood the meaning. The planning got approved super fast. All the teams at Vision Group reorganized, the various teams of Yuanjing Group regrouped, forming a tight, intensive operation to start work. I worked around the clock every single day, reviewing blueprints, holding meetings, and coordinating resources, with everything moving forward as planned. But what I didn't expect was that this proposal would first burst the biggest Ponzi scheme in Ninghai's history. That afternoon, my phone rang. Zhu Meng's voice sounded super frantic. Zhu Sheng, something happened to Dad. I set my pen down. What's wrong? My brother called to say Dad's project at the dam got scammed. She spoke super fast. The guy can't be found anymore, and the money can't be recovered either. Dad was so anxious he got hospitalized. I'm rushing to the hospital right now. Hanging up the call, I dialed Shuhai directly. He let out a sigh. It's that housing for elderly care project, led by a retired senior official. Claimed it was an insider quota, getting monthly interest payments. They actually paid out money for the first few months, so Dad was pretty happy. He paused for a moment. Then a few days ago, some damn idiot came up with a lottery property swap scheme. Said the city gave civil servants and the old town priority property swaps. Dad got super anxious as soon as he heard it. His old house was mortgaged in that project, so he couldn't swap it. He and several others went together to find that retired official wanting to redeem the property, and the guy said, no problem, redeemable anytime. Result is when they went back 2 days ago, the guy was gone, the place was emptied out, phone calls wouldn't go through, and the project office was locked up too. Yuhai's voice turned raspy. Now everyone is in a panic. A whole crowd blocked the place and called the police. You know Dad's temper. As soon as he heard the money was gone, he fainted on the spot. After listening, I was silent for 2 seconds. Got it. I'm heading over right away. Hanging up the phone, I leaned against the chair back and rubbed my nose. What a mess. That planning proposal I made for Mayor Wen and the team, giving priority property swaps to city civil servants and the southwest Old Town. After the news was leaked, the effect was shockingly good. Originally meant as a benefit for city civil servants, it now gathered old city residents and merchants. Those people weren't idiots either. Of course, they wanted to swap. Every single one wanted to get back the properties. They mortgaged to that retired official, just to join the property swap, swarming in like crazy to redeem them. What a Ponzi scheme fears most is a bank run. The money was embezzled long ago. Where would they find the cash for redemptions? It'd be weird if that retired official didn't run away. I rubbed the space between my brows, originally just pushing the project forward. Who knew I'd accidentally bust a massive scam and bury my father-in-law in the process, tidying up the documents on my desk. I gave my team a few quick instructions to let them keep working, then got up and went out to check the hospital. Arriving at the hospital entrance, a massive crowd surrounded the place. Someone wants to jump off the building. above the inpatient building. I raised my head to look up. On the top floor, a faint silhouette of a person could be seen, arms still waving wildly. My phone rang, Zhu Ming's voice sounding extremely urgent and trembling. Zhu Sheng, Dad. He can't take the hit and wants to jump off the building. My heart tightened. The person up there was my father-in-law. Where are you? Behind the building on the east side. Come quick, bypassing the crowd. I sprinted around to the back of the building. A police line was set up at the scene, with a fleet of fire trucks and police cars parked all over, and an inflatable air cushion being laid out. Zhu Ming stood at the edge, her face deathly pale. The moment she saw me, she lunged into my arms, her eyes completely bloodshot. The moment our backs were turned, he just ran out of the hospital ward, a full million and the house completely gone. The blow was just too severe for him, and he couldn't see any way out. I looked up. That figure upstairs had already climbed over the railing. Standing on the very edge, beside me, Shu Hai collapsed onto the ground on his butt. My mother-in-law was supported by 2 female officers, crying so hard she couldn't even stand up straight. I turned toward a young female police officer. What's the situation right now? Are you a family member? I'm his son-in-law. Her brow was tightly furrowed. The subject is extremely emotional, and he has a knife in his hand. That railing is severely rusted. It could fail at any moment if our officers move closer. He can see them. A negotiator went up earlier, but the results weren't great. Right as she finished speaking, screams echoed from upstairs. I jerked my head up. Zhu Zhengqi had already climbed over the railing. Standing on the narrowest outer ledge, Dad, Zhu Hai screamed. My mother-in-law's eyes rolled back, and she went completely limp. Zhu Ming's knees buckled, so I caught her in a tight grip. Zui Sheng. She grabbed onto me, tears flowing uncontrollably. After helping her sit down to the side, I turned around and started walking away. What are you doing? The female officer blocked my path. I'm going up to talk to him. No way, it's way too dangerous. I have a way. I bypassed her and sprinted straight toward the stairwell, running up to the top floor in a single breath. The wind on the rooftop was howling fiercely. The negotiator stood 10 meters away with hands raised. Mr. Xu, if the money's gone, you can earn it back. If your life is gone, everything is truly lost. Xu Zhengqi had his back turned to him, standing on the outside of the railing, brandishing the knife. Stay back. Step any closer and I'll jump right now. I walked over and patted the negotiator on the shoulder. I'm family. Let me take it from here. He froze for a moment, then slowly backed away. I took 2 steps forward and stopped. Dad. Xu Zhengqi's body shook violently. He slowly turned his head, and when he saw it was me, the blood vessels in his eyes flared even redder. You came to laugh at me. I came to watch you jump. He was completely stunned. Aren't you going to jump? I took another step forward. I'm standing right here to watch you jump. His whole body trembled, pointing the tip of the knife at me, Chen Junsheng. The reason I ended up like this today, it's all because of you. I nodded. Right, because of me. Did I force you to invest? Did I make you mortgage your house? Did I make you trust that old scammer? He opened his mouth, unable to squeeze out a succinct. I stepped forward once more, 100 mo gone. And you don't even want your life anymore. If you jump down, will the money come back? His lips quivered uncontrollably. That was my life savings. So what? I cut him off. If you die, what happens to your wife? What happens to your son? Your daughter is right downstairs. If you jump down, she will watch you with her own eyes. Have you thought about how she's supposed to live her life after this? The hand holding the knife trembled slightly. Dad, didn't you always want me to divorce your daughter? I slowly walked closer. Now's your chance. You're holding a knife, and I'm standing right here. Before you jump, slash me once first. Consider it getting revenge for yourself. He glared at me. Don't you hate me? I spread my hands wide. Come on then. You're not going to live anyway, so drag me down to be your cushion, ending it all once and for all. You think I don't dare to? He swung the knife up wildly. Screams echoed from downstairs. I didn't budge, staring straight into his eyes. If you got the guts, then do it. Slash me first, then jump. So you'll have company on the way to the underworld, not dying lonely. His knife froze in midair, his arm trembling violently. I took another step forward, standing just 3 meters away from him now. The inflatable rescue cushion was already deployed below, bright orange, looking like a tiny band-aid down from above. Dad, my voice softened down. Your daughter is right down there. Listen to her calling out for you. Faintly through the wind, Xu Meng's crying voice drifted up. Zhu Zhengqi's arm trembled even harder, tears welling up and spilling over his eyes. Have you thought about it? I stared at him. If you die? And Qiang Qian asks where her grandpa went in the future. How am I supposed to tell her? Tell her grandpa got scammed out of his money and couldn't take it, so he jumped off a building. She's only 5 years old. That will traumatize her for life. His knife began to drop down slowly. At that exact split second, the railing let out a sharp creak. A rusted joint snapped right off. His body wobbled violently. Without a second thought, I charged forward in one stride, grabbing his knife-wielding wrist with my left hand and locking my right arm around his waist tightly. Down we go. I threw my entire weight backward with everything I had, and both of us tumbled right off the railing together. The wind roared in my ears, countless screams surging up from below, followed by a heavy muffled thud. My vision snapped to total blackness. Who knows how much time had passed? I opened my eyes, the orange rescue cushion right beneath me. Beside me, Shu Zhengqi lay flat on his back, staring blankly up at the sky with wide eyes, completely motionless. Someone helped pull me up. Sir, how are you feeling? Are you hurt anywhere? I didn't answer, looking down at my left arm. Blood trickled straight down my arm. In that split second of falling, his knife hadn't been fully put away. Zui Sheng, Zhu Meng broke through the police tape, stumbling over in total panic. She dropped onto her knees on the rescue cushion, looking at the blood on my arm, her whole body shaking hysterically like a leaf. Why are you so stupid? Why are you so stupid? She wanted to touch it, but didn't dare to, her hands hovering frozen in midair, fat tears crashing down hard. Do you have any idea? When you plummeted down from above just now, She couldn't finish her sentence, throwing her arms around me and bursting into uncontrollable sobs. Without you, how are me and the kids supposed to go on? I raised my uninjured right hand and gently patted her back. It's okay, just a flesh wound. But she kept crying harder and harder. The paramedics rushed over from the side, securing me onto a stretcher. Right before being carried away, I glanced back. Shu Zhengqi was also being supported into a sitting position, completely limp like a pile of mud, his gaze staring straight in this direction. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at his daughter, kneeling on the rescue cushion, hugging me while sobbing her heart out. In the surgical ER room, the doctor pulled open my wound with tweezers to inspect it. Luckily, it didn't hit any tendons. Just a quick 7 or 8 stitches, and 2 weeks of rest will do. Zhuming stood right beside me, her eyes completely red. When she saw the needle passing through the flesh, her hands trembled lightly. Does it hurt? Nope. After the stitching and bandaging were done, I moved my arm a bit. Not bad. Shu Meng still stood there, refusing to leave, until Shu Hai walked in and said, Meng, Mom wants you to come over for a second. Zhu Meng glanced at me. Go ahead. I'm waiting for you right here. He walked out the door, and Shu Hai sat down opposite me. Hey, Chen Cui Sheng. Thanks for what happened today. I waved my hand. He stayed silent for a few seconds, then asked again, Where are you guys living now? A garden villa. He was stunned, twitching his lips. A garden villa. Stop bragging. I'd sooner believe it if you said you were living in a park. Halfway through his sentence, his gaze landed on the gauze on my arm, and he swallowed the second half of his words back down. I looked at him. Marry a rooster, follow the rooster. Marry a dog, follow the dog. Your sister is willing to live in a park with me? What does that have to do with you? He choked hard on my words, got up, walked to the doorway, and turned back around. Mom told me to let you know, now that the house is gone, and the money is gone too. Even if you guys wanted to come back, you can't anymore. So fend for yourselves. I nodded. Once we moved out, we were never going back anyway. Tell Mom and Dad that the Ponzi scheme popped, so the cash probably won't be recovered. But the house doesn't have legs to run away. Once the case wraps up, it should be returned. After resting at home for half a day, I went to work as usual the next day. The company held a project advancement meeting in the afternoon, with everything progressing as planned. After the meeting, Liu Xinrong pulled me into his office. Brother, it's time to consider the initial investment for the project. The liquid capital on the accounts is only a bit over 200 million, but according to your plan, phase 1 needs 800 million to a billion. Should we get a bank loan? If we take a loan, it'd be best to ask Mayor Wen to say a word to the banks. No need. I shook my head, pulling a sheet of paper out of my bag and pushing it in front of him. Help me set up these accounts, both domestic and international futures accounts. His eyes widened, trading futures. Do you even know how high the risks are on that stuff? What if we lose? I said with full confidence, relax. We won't lose. To make money, we don't go to the mayor. We go to the market. Let me know once the accounts are open, and you can just handle the rest. 3 days later, all the accounts were completely set up. Over the following week, I practically lived at the company, handling project matters during the day and keeping an eye on international markets at night, sometimes monitoring until 3 or 4 in the morning. Zhu Meng was worried sick. On the very first night, she came over carrying a thermal flask. Pushing the door open, she saw me glued to the screen, placing the thermal flask on the desk, finished the pork rib soup before getting back to work. I looked up and saw a little head poking out from behind her. Daddy, Mommy said you're working even though you're injured. So I came to supervise you. Qian ran over and snuggled up next to me. I smiled. All right, supervise away. Zhu Meng sat down beside me, frowning as she looked at the cluster of colorful lines on the screen. Can you actually understand all this stuff? I grinned. Your husband has plenty of tricks up his sleeve. That night, they stayed until 10:30. After that, they came every single day, and the food in the thermal flask was different every day. Liu Xinrong stopped going home to sleep too, having someone clean up a room right next door. At night, he'd watch the market with me, sitting nearby even if he couldn't understand a thing, occasionally asking, any movement yet? I'd say not yet, and he'd just keep waiting. On the third night, he called the administrative manager over, arranging 2 rotating shifts. Night shift gets triple pay to back up President Chen. 20 minutes later, coffee, tea, and snacks were brought in. Liu Xinrong leaned on the sofa and muttered, "Even as the chairman, I've never enjoyed this kind of treatment." I kept my eyes glued to the screen and ignored him. Chief Financial Officer Mr. Li had specifically come to find me regarding this matter, saying with earnest concern, "President Chen, 200 million is no small sum. With high leverage and high volatility, the slightest mishap could reset the principal to zero overnight. The company is currently pushing the Southwest District project, so if this capital takes a loss, the project schedule will be impacted, and bank credit lines will run into trouble as well." What he said made a lot of sense. I chuckled softly. I know everything Mr. Li is talking about, but you guys don't understand how I play the game. Just watch and see. Liu Xinrong stayed silent for a few seconds, then waved his hand, "Do as President Chen says." Mr. Li took a deep breath, nodded, turned, and walked out. On the sixth night, the lines on the screen began to move. I stared at those few numbers, my fingers tapping lightly on the keyboard a few times. Liu Xinrong leaned over. "It started." "Almost," he nodded. "After waiting for so many days, it's finally here." The market made a move. I stared at the screen and began tapping away at the keyboard. Liu Xinrong leaned over and asked, "How is it?" I said, "No rush." Opened the trading interface and began placing short orders. 10 million, 20 million, 50 million building positions in batches. He watched the jumping numbers, his Adam's apple bobbing. On the first day, it didn't drop. On the second day, it bounced back, putting our short positions in unrealized losses. He couldn't sit still anymore, pacing back and forth in the room, the atmosphere insanely suffocating. On the third night, I stared at the charts, while Liu Xinrong had his eyes closed on the sofa. The door opened, and a young girl came in carrying a tray, setting down the coffee and snacks neatly. Liu Xinrong was startled awake, glanced at her, and asked, "Are you new?" She said she was a new hire in the admin department, named Xu Yingying. Liu Xinrong paused for a second. Xu Yingying, double win. Now that is a great name. I couldn't help but laugh. When people are nervous, they'll grasp at anything as an emotional crutch. I said, "Xu Yingying, from now on, you're my secretary." She was utterly stunned, but quickly snapped to it. "All right, President Chen, I'll definitely do a great job." Another day passed, and the market finally moved. The K-line turned downward, a single bearish candle swallowing up the gains of the previous 3 days, and the floating losses began to shrink. Liu Xinrong stared at the screen, not even daring to blink. At market close in the evening, the account broke even. He let out a long sigh of relief, slumping onto the sofa and saying, "Brother, my heart almost couldn't take it." I said, "It hasn't even started yet." He sat up straight instantly and said, "This hasn't even started." I nodded. The next day during the company regular meeting, various departments reported their progress. Finally, material procurement was brought up. The engineering department manager stood up and said, "Phase 2 of the project is entering the site immediately, so steel and cement need to be locked in ahead of time. The current prices are okay, but in half a month they might go up." Liu Xinrong looked at me. I shook my head and said, "Wait another 3 days." The engineering department manager got anxious, saying, "President Chen, delaying the schedule means increasing costs. If material prices jump by then, labor costs will also go up." I said, "Wait, yes. 3 days." He opened his mouth, looking over at Liu Xinrong. Liu Xinrong waved his hand and said, "Listen to President Chen." Meeting adjourned. That night, the market was dull, consolidating in a narrow range with almost no action. Liu Xinrong leaned back on the sofa, his eyelids growing heavier and heavier until he fell fast asleep. Staring at the screen, I was also getting a bit sleepy. The door opened softly, and Xu Yingying came in carrying a tray. The exact moment the door opened, the numbers on the screen suddenly jerked, a massive bearish candle plunging straight through the support level. My eyes instantly lit up. "It's here." I couldn't help but turn to look at Xu Yingying. This girl is straight up good luck. The moment the door opened, the market shot off. Liu Xinrong was startled awake, rubbing his eyes as he sat up and asked, "What happened?" I said, "Come over and look." Snapping awake, he bounced straight off the sofa and darted in front of the computer. The numbers on the screen were violently jumping, one red candle after another smashing downward. The figures in the account began to double, 200 million turning into 400 million, 400 million turning into 500 million. Liu Xinrong stared with wide eyes, his mouth hanging open, unable to utter a single word. He instinctively picked up the coffee beside him, taking a sip that scalded his lips, yet his eyes never left the screen. His voice trembled. "Brother, should we close the position? That's gotta be enough, right?" I said, "What's the rush?" Opening the trading interface, I said, "Not only are we not closing, we're doubling down." His face twitched. Still adding 200 million turned it into 500 million. I'm already satisfied. I clicked the mouse a few times, adding 2 more tranches to the position. Watching my moves, his hands were shaking violently. At the close of that day's market, profits retraced slightly, leaving 450 million behind. But our position was even heavier. I pulled out my phone and messaged Xu Meng, "Transfer the 20 million from my card to the futures account." She quickly replied, "Transferred, be careful." I chuckled, setting the phone aside. During the daytime the next day, Liu Xinrong was completely distracted all day long, finally surviving until 8 p.m. 9 p.m., 10 p.m. before the market even opened. The charts had already begun reacting in advance. During the call auction phase, prices gapped down sharply and went straight down all the way. Liu Xinrong stared at the screen, his whole body as if nailed to the chair, completely motionless. I opened the account, profits at 1.7 billion. He swallowed hard and said, "Brother, still not closing." I said, "Not there yet." He asked, "How low is it going up?" I looked at the screen and said negative. His legs went soft, nearly sliding right out of his chair, bracing one hand on the desk to steady himself. Negative. "Brother, are you serious?" I said, "Dead serious." Holding onto the desk, he slowly sat back in the chair, saying nothing more, just staring intently at the screen. In the late night, prices approached zero, and I started buying back in batches, closing out a portion of the short positions to lock in profits, waiting with the rest for that final hit. At 3:17 a.m., prices touched zero, and Liu Xinrong abruptly stood up. My fingers flew across the keyboard rapidly, closing out the final batch of short positions. The number on the screen froze at 2.3 billion. Liu Xinrong slammed back onto his chair, gasping heavily for air. I opened the other account. Zhu Meng's 20 million had now turned into over 300 million. And it wasn't even over at 3:20 a.m. Prices continued plunging downward, finally freezing at negative $37.63. Liu Xinrong stared at that number, slowly turning his head to look at me, his eyes looking at me like I was a monster. He said, "Brother, can I bow down to you right now?" I laughed. He sat in total daze, 2.3 billion. Holy crap. Ixi. He sat up abruptly, grabbing my arm and saying, "Brother, why am I even doing real estate anymore? Let's just trade futures full time." An entire night without sleep. At 9 a.m., the domestic futures market opened. With international markets crashing last night, the early morning domestic market was bound to follow down. This was precisely the opportunity I was waiting for. I opened the trading interface and started placing limit orders, rebar hot rolled coils, glass cement, anything the project could use, setting the order prices ridiculously low. In the other account, I had long since closed out the short positions, reversing my play near $0 to buy crude oil long contracts. Right now, oil prices were still below $10, cheaper than bottled mineral water. But I knew it wouldn't be long before that war up north would drive oil prices all the way up to $130. Buying now was literally free money. I didn't leave Liu Xinrong's account idle either. Taking 1 billion out of the 2.3 billion, I gradually built up long positions, buying a bit of crude oil, copper, and rubber, whatever I could buy. At 9:30 a.m., the first batch of orders filled. At 10 a.m., the second batch. At 11 a.m., the third batch. Looking at the execution records flashing on screen, the corner of my mouth turned up slightly enough. At 2 p.m., during the management meeting, I walked into the conference room. Everyone was already present. Liu Xinrong sat in the head seat, his face glowing red with excitement. "President Chen is here." I sat down and scanned the room. CFO, Mr. Li, the engineering department manager, the marketing director, and several vice presidents were all there. Liu Xinrong cleared his throat and got straight to the point. "The capital for phase 1 is secured." Everyone looked at each other in surprise. Liu Xinrong pointed at me. "Take a guess. How much did President Chen make for the company last night?" He held up 2 fingers, flipped them twice, and flashed a 23 sign 2.3 billion from a 200 million principal. He pulled 2.3 billion last night. The conference room instantly exploded like a bomb. CFO, Mr. Li, sprang up so fast his chair skidded far back, staring at me with wide eyes, his mouth moving but unable to speak. I waved my hand. "Mr. Li, calm down and sit. Everyone, it was just a market move that I happened to catch." Liu Xinrong burst out laughing, throwing all composure out the window. "Did you guys see the news? Yesterday, crude oil crashed into negative numbers. Who could happen to catch an opportunity like that? Anyway, I don't have the skill to happen to catch it, but it doesn't matter. President Chen has what it takes to pull it off." He braced his hands on the table and stood up. "Now we're set. Phase 1 capital is locked, and Phase 2 is a piece of cake. We can go all out on that Southwest District project now." Thunderous applause broke out. Liu Xinrong waited for the applause to die down before dropping another huge bomb. "For the entire company, top to bottom, including the cleaning staff, everyone gets an 8,000 yuan bonus. And for those who worked overtime lately, overtime pay is doubled." Just after 4 p.m., Zhu Meng came in with a thermal flask to bring me soup. Noticing her strange expression, I asked, "What's wrong?" "I think I just saw my brother, Shu Hai." "Yeah, down in the first floor lobby." When the elevator doors closed, I saw someone who looked just like him. It seemed like he saw me too, but he didn't come over. I said maybe he came to pitch business. A lot of companies have been coming by lately to get orders. I dialed the marketing director, asking him to check on it. A few minutes later, he called back. "President Chen, I checked. A manager Shu was here earlier, but their company hasn't secured any orders yet. Should I arrange something, President Chen?" I chuckled. "If there's something suitable, giving them a little is fine. That company has a slight connection with one of our shareholders, but no need for special treatment. Just follow normal procedures." "Understood." I hung up the phone. Zhu Ming looked at me. "Did you set something up for them?" Just a small favor, no big deal. It's just a small favor. But I didn't expect that doing this small favor would end up causing trouble for myself instead. When I got home in the evening, as soon as I stepped inside, I saw Shumeng sitting on the sofa, her eyes totally red, clearly having just cried. My heart tightened. What happened? She shook her head, saying nothing. Qianqian ran over and hugged her. Mommy cried. I squatted down and asked Qianqian, what happened? Qianqian's little face puffed up with rage. We went to dinner today, and Grandpa hit Mommy. He even cursed at Mommy, calling her shameless. The anger inside me surged instantly. That old man caused a scene in the hospital, threatening to jump off the building, and I was the one who went up to save him. Now he turns around and hits my wife. I took a deep breath to suppress the rage, holding Shumeng's shoulders to make her face me. Meng, you can tell me anything. I will absolutely never allow anyone to bully you. Her tears welled up again, and she threw herself into my arms, hugging me tightly. Don't ask anymore. Zuisheng, I beg you don't ask anymore. I just can't say it. I held her, gently patting her back, waiting until her emotions calmed down, then turned to ask Qianqian, was Uncle there? Yes. I pulled out my phone and dialed Shuhai directly. Shuhai, what happened today? He froze for a second. Then his tone shifted immediately. You still have the nerve to ask me? Chen Zuisheng, you're really something, aren't you? Pushing your own wife into a pit of fire, and now acting like you did nothing wrong. I gripped the phone tightly. Make yourself clear. Make myself clear, fine. You pushed my sister to be Liu Xianrong's mistress, just to trade her for your own wealth and power, didn't you? Zhao Yu and her classmates took photos. At the auto show, Liu Xianrong bought your wife a car. A Benz worth over $1 million right off the bat, and I saw it with my own eyes. My sister went to Yuanjing Group, carrying a thermal flask in her hands, riding the CEO's private elevator, selling your wife for clout and riches. Chen Zuisheng, do you have any shame left? Holding the phone, I didn't say a word. So that was it. So that was the kind of humiliation she endured at the dinner table. Those relatives looking at her with those judgment-filled eyes, saying all those passive-aggressive insults, and her dad slapping her right across the face in front of everyone. All because of a car and elevator, and a completely made-up accusation. A sharp pain gripped my heart, followed by another burst of fury. Zhumeng sat on the sofa, lowering her head, her shoulders trembling slightly. I took a deep breath, enunciating every word. Shuhai, your company recently snagged several orders from Yuanjing Group. Those were all counted as your performance metrics, right? The voice on the other end paused. What do you mean? Those orders are gone. And as for that house your Shu family was scammed out of, I originally planned to give a heads up to speed up the process, so it could be returned to you guys sooner. Now you can just wait slowly. At least 3 years. Chen Zuisheng, I hung up the phone, tossing it onto the coffee table. Shu Meng looked up at me, her rimmed eyes totally red, tears still hanging on her face. I walked over and pulled her into my chest, comforting her softly. It's okay now. I'm right here. Qianqian ran over as well, hugging both our legs. First thing in the morning, the marketing director called. President Chen, that manager Shu from that company, came again, asking why their business dealings were halted. I sneered cold. Just tell him. He offended a shareholder of our group. Tell him to go back and figure it out. If he can't wrap his head around it, then from now on in Ninghai, their company won't be landing a single order. Hanging up the phone, I went back to reading documents. I could totally imagine Shuhai's expression hearing those words. Doing real estate marketing in Ninghai and randomly pissing off a shareholder of Yuanjing Group. What did that even mean? It was basically a death sentence in this industry in Ninghai. In the afternoon, the marketing director called again. President Chen, their company's big boss came over too. Along with manager Shu. I said I'm in a meeting and didn't see them. I chuckled softly. Leave them hanging, no need to bother with them. The next day, as soon as I sat down at the company, the marketing director's call came right through. President Chen, manager Su, and their CEO Mr. Yang are here again. What do you think? I glanced at the time, 9:30 a.m. After leaving them hanging for 2 hours yesterday. They came back first thing this morning. Looks like they were truly scared out of their minds. Bring them to the main conference room. The main conference room. President Chen, today is the supplier meeting? Right, just have them join that one. The other end went silent for a second. Understood? I hung up the phone and organized the documents on my desk. The Southwest District project, Gunjing, is the primary urban construction developer, combining old city renovation with riverside expansion. The scale was massive, too big for our company alone to swallow whole. Steel cement, advertising consultation. All suppliers had to be gathered together today to lay down the rules clearly. At 10 a.m. sharp, I pushed open the door to the main conference room. It was packed wall to wall with people. Scanning the room, I immediately spotted Shuhai and Mr. Yang. Since they arrived late, they could only squeeze in 2 chairs against the wall, sticking out like a sore thumb, impossible not to notice. Shuhai's eyes landed on me, and his expression instantly froze. His mouth hung open, eyes wide as saucers, completely paralyzed on the spot as if his pressure points were struck. Ignoring him completely, I walked straight up to the podium. Allow me to introduce myself, everyone. My name is Chen Zuisheng, the new CEO of Yuanjing Group. Whispers broke out among the crowd below, people exchanging glances. I invited everyone here today because of the Southwest District project, Old City renovation, Riverside expansion. I don't need to tell you how massive this scale is. Everyone sitting here today, over the next 3 years, you will all get a piece of the pie from this project. But there is one condition. My tone dropped. All suppliers must follow a unified deployment and act as one. Material standards, construction progress, and inspection procedures must strictly follow the plan. Whoever drops the ball gets ousted. I swept my gaze across the room. Wenjing eats the meat, and you guys drink the broth. But how the broth is drunk, I call the shots. The audience fell silent for a few seconds. Then someone spoke up. Rest assured, President Chen, we will definitely cooperate. Just give the orders, President Chen, and we'll follow your lead. The chatter gradually quieted down, excitement written across everyone's face. Back in my office, less than 10 minutes after sitting down, Su Yingying's call came in. President Chen, Mr. Yang, and Manager Shu are requesting to see you. Let them in. The door opened and Mr. Yang stepped in with a face full of smiles, reaching out his hand the moment he walked in. President Chen, last time I saw you at your company, I knew you were extraordinary. I didn't expect that in such a short time. You'd become the CEO of Yuanjing. Truly young and accomplished, Ya says. I shook his hand. You flatter me, Mr. Yang. Zhu Hai trailed behind, standing at the doorway, looking utterly lost on whether to step in or back out. I didn't even give him a glance. Yingying poured a cup of tea for Mr. Yang. Su Yingying acknowledged, and brought over a cup of tea, placing it right in front of Mr. Yang. Zhu Hai remained standing where he was, his face flushing red and pale alternately, with no tea served for him. Mr. Yang's eyes darted back and forth. A slick old fox like him could naturally tell there was friction between Zhu Hai and me. Though he knew Zhu Hai and I were relatives, some things were hard to bring up directly. I got straight to the point. Mr. Yang, you're here for the project orders, right? He was taken aback for a second. I pointed straight at Zhu Hai. If his problem isn't resolved, you won't be getting a single project. Zhu Hai's expression turned ugly. Hey! Mr. Yang quickly pulled him back. Little Shu, holding down Zhu Hai's arm. Look at you. Why can't you speak nicely? Whatever you did wrong, just apologize to President Chen and it's over. Zhu Hai felt a tight knot in his chest, his face flushing a deep reddish purple. Mr. Yang looked at him, then at me. Tactfully standing up, President Chen, I'll let you two talk first. I'll wait outside. He pushed open the door and stepped out, leaving only me and Zhu Hai in the office. I leaned back against my chair, staring at him. Zhu Hai, do you know which shareholder of Yuanjing Group you offended? He was taken aback for a moment. I'm not talking about myself. I don't care about you. The one you offended is my wife, your sister Shu Meng. She is currently one of the shareholders of Yuanjing Group. Zhu Hai's eyes widened insanely far. How is that possible? I scoffed coldly. When I said I lived in a garden villa, you didn't believe me. When I said your sister is a shareholder of Yuanjing, you didn't believe me either. Then what was that you saw in the main conference room just now? And what about what you are standing here seeing right now? His Adam's apple bobbed up and down. I picked up the phone. Do you want me to give Chairman Liu a call and have him tell you who attended Yuanjing Group's last shareholders meeting? Zhu Hai was completely petrified, standing in front of me like a piece of wood struck by lightning. That night, after Qian fell asleep, Zhu Ming finished her shower, slipped into the blanket, and clung close to me. I reached out to pull her into my arms. After a moment of silence, she whispered softly, Zui Sheng, thank you. Thank me for what? She didn't answer, just resting her head on my chest. Sometimes when I think about it, it feels like a dream. Our family being like this now, Qian is cured. Business is thriving, and we live so well. Pausing for a second, it's just that when I recall our wedding back then, I feel a bit sad. It was way too shabby. No one from your family came, and with my parents' attitude, we didn't even have a decent ceremony. She buried her face in my chest, saying no more. Holding her, I remained silent. Yet something stirred deep in my heart. When we got married, I hadn't reincarnated yet. That original deadbeat gambler didn't take the wedding seriously at all. Zhu Ming had defied her entire family's opposition to marry him, wrapping up such a pathetic event. Now that she brought this up, I ought to give her a proper wedding, treating it as if I were marrying her all over again. Thinking up to this point, feeling the warmth of her resting against my chest, a subtle wave of excitement surged within me. No time like the present. The next day, Sunday, I woke up super early. Zhu Ming was still sleeping. I kissed her forehead and headed straight to Ninghai's oldest jewelry store, which specialized in custom pieces. After hearing my request, the store manager brought out a box. Mr. Chen, you're in luck. We just acquired a 5-carat D-color flawless diamond with exquisite proportions, cut and brilliance. Inside the box was a loose diamond, pure as a frozen drop of water under the light. This stone is top tier. It's just that we haven't found a customer worthy of it. If you want it, we can fire up the furnace right now. How long for on-site crafting? 3 hours. I nodded, do it. 2 hours later, a flawless round diamond was placed on black velvet, every facet reflecting subtle specks of light, as if holding a star right in my hand. Like holding a star right in my hand. When I got back home, Shu Meng had just gotten out of bed, wandering around the living room in her pajamas. while Qianqian was lying on the sofa drawing. I walked over, got down on one knee, pulled out the ring box, and opened it. Zhu Meng completely froze. Our last wedding doesn't count. This time it's me. Chen Zui Shang proposing to marry you. She covered her mouth, tears instantly gushing out. Unable to speak, she just nodded, nodding her head frantically. Qianqian jumped down from the sofa and rushed over. Mommy is crying. Daddy, you're bullying mommy. Zhu Meng laughed through her tears. He's not bullying me. She was too overwhelmed to continue, just hugging me in a tight embrace. I slipped the ring onto her ring finger, a perfect fit. Thank you for always sticking by my side.